yourselves in the chat box, say salam. And I hope that you're excited for today's topic. Today is a very powerful day. We're starting off with loneliness and Eid with Sister Sarah Sultan and Sheikh Omar Husain, inshallah. And then we have another panel at 5 p.m. With Sheikh Muhammad Sharif, Sheikh Naveed Aziz, and Sheikh Omar Suleiman. So powerful day. Lock yourselves in. Inshallah, we'll have some intense sessions going forward, and it will give you a short period of time after the end of the Q&A, after the end of the panels, for a brief Q&A, inshallah. I'm just going to make sure that all of you can see me properly on all platforms. YouTubers especially, please let me know if you're having any issues, and then we will officially kick off today's session, and you can hear me. Alhamdulillah, everyone. Jazakumullah khair. I see a couple people have said their salams. Thank you so much for trickling in. Please take this opportunity to share the stream. I'm very excited for today's topic, alhamdulillah, with Sister Sarah and Sheikh Omar. We've covered some of the more hard-hitting topics that have kind of affected us personally, emotionally, mentally, within our families and within our homes. And today we'll be covering something that I think for the first is a bit of a newer experience for us for sure as well. Revert sisters and brothers, something I'm very passionate about, have experienced this for years and years and years. But I think for the first time now, even those who have families, who have people at home, have this new experience of Eid to expect or to look forward to. And this will be a great kind of, I think, reminder before we jump into Eid itself in a couple of days. So Jazakumullah khair for joining us. Sheikh Omar, Sister Sarah, we were discussing earlier, I think in one of our meetings, that mashallah, you guys have been the MVPs of our Ramadan 360 programming. Thank you so much for taking the time and making the time for us regularly. And I'm actually very excited to have you guys both back as a duo, alhamdulillah. I hope that you guys are well. Sorry if I think both of you have access to say salam, inshallah. And Lubna, Jazakumullah khair. Asiya, Aisha, thank you so much for trickling in. YouTubers, I'm still waiting for you guys to confirm that y'all are good. Everyone here, if you can hear me, please put a 1 in the comment box. It's going to be a strong session, so I want to make sure we don't miss out and we don't have any technical issues, inshallah. 1 Hannah, Jazakumullah khair, I appreciate it. Awesome. Sister Sarah, Sheikh Omar, how are you doing today?
Alaikum. Doing well, alhamdulillah. How are you doing, Hafsa?
Alhamdulillah. I'm looking forward to both of you. You guys will see this a little later on, so I won't tell you what it is, but both of you sent the cutest little snippets last night. So Jazakumullah khair for doing that. Shout out to you. I know it was like in the middle of the night, so I appreciate you guys that sent it so quickly, and I'm very excited to see the final results, inshallah. Sheikh Omar, how are you yourself?
Alhamdulillah. Just trying to maximize the last few moments of the month.
Moments, subhanAllah. I don't even want to say it at this point, but like, what are you guys feeling leading up to Eid personally? Because you guys have been supporting the community overall in ways of coping mechanisms and what to do, what to maximize the Ramadan, how to approach this different Ramadan. How are you guys feeling kind of exiting out of this Ramadan?
Well, for me, it's definitely like we're in Ramadan and I'm already starting to miss it, subhanAllah, so even though we have a couple of days, definitely like Sheikh Omar said, trying for all of us to maximize it, but definitely kind of mentally and emotionally trying to prep myself that it's almost done. And so it's going to feel really different in a few days. Yeah. So, but alhamdulillah, it's actually been a really beautiful experience this Ramadan with some of I say this on every like live, it's been like a slower pace and all of this, but it really has been a beautiful experience. Actually, I'll share like a little personal thing that last night we had like a socially distanced iftar with our neighbors outside. And it was really nice, subhanAllah, like these are, people we never had the chance to interact with. So there have been so many like hidden blessings in this situation, alhamdulillah. So we really, really enjoyed that. It was fun.
That's awesome. Wait, so how do you do a social distance iftar? Do you stay in your like backyards and you sort of like shout over your fences?
So we live in a cul-de-sac, right? So it's like a closed off spot. And so we had tables in front of each person's house. We put tablecloths and little mosquito repellent candles because we live in Houston, right? And so and then we just got pizza, like a few families chipped in, we all got pizza for everybody, and different families brought in different foods, and it was really nice, alhamdulillah.
Oh, mashallah, mashallah. I hope you have pictures or whatnot to share for that. I feel like iftar has been very interesting. We've done drive-through iftars, we've done drive-by iftars, we've done such, whatever we can to hold on to that community spirit. What about you, Sheikh Omar? Anything personal to share? Any tidbit?
I think it's, when you start to understand how valuable Ramadan is, you do start to miss it as it's leaving. But particularly this Ramadan, I'm alhamdulillah, I'm proud of us, like as Muslims in general. Like we didn't know what we were going to do when it started. We're kind of planning as the month is progressing. And alhamdulillah, I don't feel a void of missing out on anything. In fact, I think many people actually feel that it was an incredibly productive Ramadan. So
yeah, I agree with that. I like that uplifting. And hopefully, inshallah, for those of you, we've had anxieties going into the month, and I think we have anxieties exiting the month as well. So I hope that inshallah, tackling this topic today of loneliness and Eid will give us a chance to embrace ourselves. And I think it's great that we had this opportunity to have you guys come in beforehand as well, give some reminders in the beginning of the month when we were just getting into it and scared about Taraweeh and this and family and marriage and divorce and all that. So inshallah khair, I hope that this is powerful and this is helpful for everyone listening and watching. Inshallah, let's jump right into the session itself. First, we'll have Sheikh Omar speaking for about 20 minutes. Then we'll have Sister Sarah. And if you guys have questions, this is the time to submit them because we won't have a lot of time in the end, inshallah. So Bismillah, I'll pass it off to you, Sheikh Omar. Jazakallah khair for joining and starting us off.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulihil Kareem. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Alhamdulillah, it's nice to be back again. So let me first speak about the difference between being alone and loneliness. Being alone is many times it can be a very positive thing, but feeling lonely or suffering from loneliness does not. Now, before I get into that, I want to speak about Eid in general, not just during COVID-19. Specifically to parents. Now, you can grow up as a Muslim in the US or Canada or the UK, wherever you're at, let's say as a Muslim minority, but maybe sometimes in a Muslim majority as well. But as a minority, just because you don't get the days off and things like that. And your children can still feel lonely on the day of Eid. And you know why? It's because we have a responsibility to emphasize how important the day is. So I hope everyone can take this to like 500 other people that do not hear this. When it comes to the day of Eid, what you cannot do is constantly mention how you hope it's going to be on a weekend. This is devastating psychologically for your kids, because they grow up just thinking, oh man, Eid's on Wednesday, man, it's on Tuesday. Oh, it's going to be on Friday or Saturday. Oh, I hope it's on Saturday because I don't have to work on Saturday. And then Eid comes on. Look, most of the year, just statistically, there's 5 weekdays. It's going to be on a weekday, right? Quite often. Although this year it looks like Sunday, inshallah. But still, it's going to happen. It's going to be on a weekday, and it's like people are almost disappointed when you're supposed to be excited for Eid, right? You fasted the whole month. So please, I beg you to stop this talk. It has an effect on those who are listening. It has an effect on children. It has an effect on the Muslim community in general when this is the discourse, that it's like, oh, I just hope, like this is by default. Eid is the day it is. Whatever it is, alhamdulillah. May Allah reward my parents. It didn't matter what day Eid was. Even if we had to go to school, we did not go to school that day. I think one time I went, but that was after the prayer, just for a test. One time, like in all these years. And so there's wisdom behind that. So it was always like, oh, this day is special, right? So keep it special. And the other thing I'll mention, inshallah, when I give a couple of tips for this Ramadan, because that is especially true for this Ramadan, but all in general. But please, the negative talk, I hope that the Eid isn't on the weekday. Please stop that. It's just, it's very devastating psychologically for your children. It's devastating for new Muslims that they're hearing. I mean, you tell them, oh yeah, Eid is like Christmas for us. And then you're just like, oh God, I hope it's not on a Tuesday. No, work around that day, right? The Eid, it's only twice in the year. Make that the priority, inshallah, and nothing else. If you absolutely have to go to work or have to take a test, I've found in my experience, people are incredibly accommodating. In fact, when in one of my early jobs in IT, my manager was like, this month is your holiday, right? So feel free to adjust your hours. MashaAllah, for 30 straight days. Yes, for 30 days, you can adjust your hours. I didn't even ask for that, right? So just ask. The answer is always no if we don't ask. So now that I got that off my chest, to build off of that, let's talk about loneliness. There's many examples in our religion, our beautiful religion, where loneliness is actively, we're trying to combat loneliness, and we may not even realize it because there's so much wisdom in a lot of these acts of worship. The most simple one, of course, is the prayer. There is, we know, 27 times reward for praying in Jama'ah, right? When you pray in Jama'ah, even nowadays when you're at home, you don't just kind of pray and then just go about your business, you know. Everybody kind of gathers together, all right? When you're at the masjid, maybe you come a little bit early, you read the sunnahs, like, oh, there's Ahmad, right? Oh, there's Aisha, assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. You know, you pray, maybe afterward there's a little khatira, which you can absolutely still do in your home today. And we have one community member, you know, her dad is doing a tafsir, and the siblings are rotating to have like the khatiras in between the tarawih. And so, you know, so it's almost like an experience to do that. Nobody comes to the masjid and just prays and leaves. And at home, even now, right? You generally don't just, okay, let's just go and no, there's so much that goes into it. And that is a lot of wisdom. You feel part of a community, you feel connected. And that's why we feel lonely when we're not able to do that, like on Jum'ah, for example. So just something to think about, inshallah ta'ala. The next is just the act of salam. And maybe, you know, we always say like, oh, I didn't have time to text, or I didn't have time to call. Well, now maybe we do have that time, because that hour commute, that hour and a half commute, right? That's not there anymore. All that time is back for us. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked what is the best, you know, the best Islam, he said what? تُطْعِمُ الطَّعَامِ, feed those who are hungry, which is perfectly relevant to our time as well, and in general. And then what? وَتَقْرَوْ السَّلَامِ عَلَى مَنْ عَرَفْتَ وَمَنْ لَمْ تَعْرِفْ. Give and spread the salam to who? To who you know. Okay, so I know my friend, oh, I know my classmate. And those you don't know. What is the wisdom in that? That combats loneliness. Or I shouldn't say the wisdom, some of the wisdom, because I've found, alhamdulillah, the religion is so deep and rich that there's so much to extract. How many times the person will come to the masjid, okay? And nobody's really saying salam, or it's not really, you know, you don't give them time. We have a brother, may Allah reward him, in our masjid. He is like the, I'm going to seek out the people who are feeling awkward brother. And he goes and he gives them salam, right? And it makes you feel, it makes them feel special, right? Like somebody cares. Why would the Prophet ﷺ say to give salam on those who we don't know, right? It's to have a sense of togetherness. And when you're together, it means what? It means you're not feeling lonely. Like you just go to the masjid, you feel like nobody's going to, you almost expect to get a salam from so many different people that we haven't, that we don't know. And alhamdulillah, I think most of us are pretty good at this. But I would urge us, you know, inshallah, when the corona, may Allah rid us of it quickly, and the gatherings come back, look for that person kind of hanging out by themselves. Look for that person that just said shahada last week and the masjid was echoing with takbirs, but then all of a sudden, you know, it's like, khalas, that's it. Please, please seek that person out. And if you're not good at that, then find someone that is good at that, and they will be more than happy to do it, inshallah ta'ala. Asking about people is another way. And again, these are all so relevant to all times, but especially our time. The Prophet ﷺ, there was a man or a woman, depending on the narration, who used to kind of take care of the masjid, clean the masjid. And one day he asked, where are they? They said, oh, you know, he or she died. He said, why didn't you tell me? And he went and he prayed over the grave, Salatul Janazah. The Prophet ﷺ prayed the Janazah and made dua, right, in his beautiful du'as for someone that many people may not even know what their name was. So what do we take out of that? Asking about people's well-being. How is so-and-so doing? Oh, they're not doing too well. Or they're, you know, they got busy. Just kind of checking in, and we have even more opportunity to do that now. Earlier, during this pandemic, we've done a international Zoom conference call with my family. It's wonderful. We have family from Australia. We have, all over the place. And I don't know if we've ever done that, but these are some of the hidden blessings. So asking how people are shows that, we care. And absolutely, when you're kind of feeling by yourself, that can be very uplifting. And it makes people feel, like they're valued. Also making people feel special. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged giving gifts. Eid is coming. Give gifts, exchange gifts, saying I love you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the point of that, right? It's to make people feel like you are valued. We all want to be valued. Now, it's not our goal in life that we only want to be valued by other people, but what we want is just some recognition sometimes. Otherwise, why would the Prophet ﷺ say that man lam yashkur an-nas lam yashkur Allah? Whoever doesn't thank the people doesn't thank Allah, right? So there needs to be some balance. So that's very important. Also visiting the sick. When that can be incredibly lonely when you're by yourself, when you're in the hospital. People, not all family can stay there all the time. People have work obligations. And it can make such a big difference. And there's so much wisdom in visiting the sick. And so nowadays, just a quick phone call or a check-in can do so much. So I want to emphasize that our religion really has a lot of ibadah and actions in place to kind of combat the act of loneliness. Now, what about being lonely or seclusion? Well, this has tremendous blessings. One of the earliest acts of seclusion turned out to be something which, kind of changed humanity, which is what? It was the Prophet ﷺ being alone, being secluded in the cave when the revelation came. The Prophet ﷺ used to go there and he used to seek, he used to kind of worship as he worshiped. And then, of course, the revelation came. By the way, if you go to the cave in Mecca and you go, it is if you look down now, there's all a bunch of lights, right? But none of those lights were there. And you just look on the horizon and you imagine Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam coming, and that is a scary sight. You can see why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was kind of, went back to Khadija and was so kind of, I don't want to say scared. I don't think that's the appropriate word, but just kind of in bewilderment, like what happened. It's a very intense scene. So this is the first simple example of being alone, being by yourself. And also, what else? How about another dua that we're probably making a lot in this Ramadan is what? The dua of Yunus alayhi salatu wasalam. When did that dua come? When he was with his people? No, when he was in the depths of the belly of the fish. When he was alone, he made that dua. And so being alone can have so much value. And the beauty of Islam is that you have to, like, you get into Jannah, of course, by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but based off our own deeds individually, but we still have a responsibility collectively to society, right? So you have to, for example, fulfill rights to your family. If you don't do that, then you will be held accountable, right? If you do that, then that makes for a more productive society, and you'll also get rewarded for that. But ultimately, we will all be held accountable alone. يَوْمَ تَأْتِي كُلُّ نَفْسٍ تُجَادِلُ عَنْ نَفْسِهَا. On that day, every soul will come to argue on behalf of itself, meaning we will be individually coming and pleading our case to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody is going to bail us out, right? There are no bailouts. You might get that in the US government, but you don't get that on the day of judgment. But part of that responsibility is what we fulfill to others. You see, so it's a really beautiful how it's all connected in that sense. Now, in our times with social media, and this is kind of one of my research interests, we may feel we're connected, but not being or not feeling loneliness. You may say, I don't feel loneliness, but when you look at the research, it comes down to the quality of the connection that we have with people, meaning you could still have a lot of people you know and still be absolutely lonely because there's no quality in that relationship, whatever it may be. And with social media, a lot of research shows us that people are actually more depressed when they get off. we don't have those meaningful, fulfilling relationships. Now, most of the research I've seen is on Facebook, but I would love to do it like on Instagram or Snapchat and other mediums, just to see, because it's a little bit different in the communication, but I think we would probably find the same results. They actually have loneliness scales to determine how lonely the person is. And again, it comes down to the quality of the relationships. Now, a lot of times when we think about, oh, I don't want to be alone, you know, we have this Hollywood sort of notion that comes to our mind. But there are times when being alone is very much needed. To be alone and beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our needs is just something which it's very freeing, right? Just to be able to do that by ourselves, not constantly be around people. And we have a lot of noise in our world. And so it's really important. I just downloaded a couple of books by Cal Newport. One is called Digital Minimalism. I'm not getting paid for this, by the way. I'm just telling you what I was reading. Digital Minimalism. And then the other is Deep Work. And they're all kind of based off of this like quality time, being alone, and kind of silencing all these distractions that we have. So understanding that true quality time and being alone is productive, right? We are productive. If we're not being productive, we may superficially not feel like we're alone, but we really are, because there's no quality in those relationships, as it often is in social media. Now, we can be incredibly productive. One example I can think of in modern American history, of course, is Malcolm X, who was alone in prison, started writing out the dictionary, could barely write it. SubhanAllah. The Malcolm X we know, that foundation came in prison. That's my favorite part of the biography, not necessarily the other parts. Not that those aren't great, but this is my absolute favorite. That came in what? That came in seclusion. Seclusion allows us to do what's called muhasaba, to take ourselves to account, and to be aware of what's happening. And that only happens when we turn off the noise, right? So for Malcolm X, he could turn off the noise in prison. Inshallah, may Allah protect us. We don't need to go to prison for that. We can make our own little space. Why do people make i'tikaf? Why was this the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Shut off the noise and be alone. You're not lonely. It's you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we may have to get a little bit creative, even if it's a little space in our homes this Ramadan, but still to be alone and have that ability to worship. Now, interestingly, the two groups they found who are more prone to loneliness are the elderly, which probably is not surprising, but also adolescents, right? Adolescents. So, you know, all the posts and everything, really, again, it goes down to what is the quality of that relationship, and what is being learned there. So these are the two groups we really want to give special attention to. In our masjid, we separate groups like youth, young professionals, college students. You can't just lump everyone together. Oh, it's the youth. I mean, each group kind of has its unique needs. So that's important to keep. I know some masjids kind of do like an elderly breakfast once a month. So this is important because you can really feel a loneliness because there's, you know, people are busy in their lives and things like that. Now, let me conclude with a couple of things regarding our unique situation in Ramadan. What are some suggested activities? So we are actually live streaming our Eid prayer. It's not open to the public. I'm not getting in the fiqh of following or not following, but we are just live streaming it. And, you know, there'll be like 6 or 7, whatever of us in there. And we're doing it just because people can still get up, take a shower, you know, put on some nice clothes, put on some nice perfume, and just feel an Eid sort of spirit and feel like they're at the masjid at least. So this may be something to consider, because these are things kind of at a massive scale that we can do, which would have an impact across all communities. You know, I mean, like my brother, right? His wife traveled just before this COVID stuff. He's completely alone. He's going to be alone on Eid. And so to be able to kind of tap into the community may be something really nice, you know, for those who are not able to. I know some masjids are doing drive-through Eid decoration things, so like you decorate the car and then you kind of drive through. We are kind of planning to give like the kids little, you know, drive by and pick up little goodie bags. So again, the day feels special. So these are a couple of things, inshallah, we can do at a community and individual level. For those who are converts who don't have Muslim family, something like a Zoom sort of a meal together, or even a phone call, can go a long way. And finally, for Eid in general, not just during this year, I encourage everyone, especially parents, just go nuts with it. I mean, decorate the house, make it seem like this is just the greatest day in the world. Because for us, it really is a grand celebration, because then the association for your children, who will, inshallah, later on go on to have their own children, will always be just incredible memories. So go all out, decorate the house, especially now we're not going out on Eid. There's not many places to go. So spend that time, get those Eid Mubarak signs, make cards, put them on the refrigerator, inshallah. And then we can make this Eid a very memorable one. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, jazakumullahu khairan, wa akhiru da'wahum anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Barakallah feekum, Sheikh. SubhanAllah. I like the reminder for parents not to stress the weekday. I didn't realize that was the cause of all my trauma, but now that I think back on it, I'm glad that you mentioned that to begin with. And yes, I love the fact that to go completely nuts. I think we have a unique opportunity, and we have time. We're stuck at home, so we can't say we don't have time to decorate, inshallah. So jazakumullah khair for that amazing reminder. I'll pass it off to Sister Sarah, and then inshallah we'll see if we have a little bit of time left for questions. Sister Sarah, jazakumullah khair. I know you're going to be talking a little bit of those reminders as well, some of those coping skills, inshallah, for Eid, some of those suggestions, and then I'm curious to see what you'll add on to it. Bismillah.
جزاك الله خير. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Omar, for your excellent tips. I particularly appreciated that you mentioned that factor about kids and making Eid really, really special for kids as well. So, one thing, as we're talking about this, I'm going to go at it from a couple different angles. One thing to note is being alone during any times that are specials, any times that are special, any holidays, it is going to be something particularly hard, right? We can't deny it. There's no use fighting that, right? So I wanted us to figure out how to consider this experience through a different lens. Because like Sheikh Omar said, there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. That you can be surrounded by people in a crowded room and feel lonely, and you can be alone and feel at peace, right? So how can we use this experience, this upcoming Eid, and just anytime in general, when we might be alone, without allowing ourselves to struggle deeply with loneliness? So one thing I want to note about Eid coming up, that's going to be the first day that the shayateen are released. And so they're going to mess with our heads, and they're going to bring up really difficult feelings, and they're going to bring up feelings of hopelessness. And so reframing the way that we view this situation and this experience and controlling our thought process is particularly important, especially as we're getting ready to end Ramadan and, hope and making the most out of these last couple of days. We don't want these negative thought processes to also cause us to lose these last couple of days that are so filled with blessings, right? So let's try and view it. Let's try and view these things from a different lens to shift our state of mind in order to make the most out of the last couple of days of Ramadan, but also our experience on Eid, inshallah. So the first thing to acknowledge when we're talking about shifting our mindset to be able to cope is a technique called name it to tame it, right? Where when we are dealing with anything difficult, anything uncomfortable, anything hard, right? Don't push away the difficult feelings, but don't allow yourself to wallow in them either, right? So when a feeling comes up, you name it to tame it. So once you name the fact that, I'm a little bit disappointed that I can't, be with people this Eid. I'm a little disappointed I can't travel to see my family. I'm, a little worried about what this is going to look like. When you name it, you can start to actively feel better, and you can start to make active choices as to how to make yourself feel better. The other mindset shift that is very, very important as we're talking about this is to acknowledge that this struggle, any struggle with being alone, any struggle with not getting exactly what you're wanting at any point in your life is a source of reward. To acknowledge that the hasanat that are coming with this situation are real, right? And that with a struggle, and with every struggle, there's going to be good deeds that come with it, inshallah. And so from this lens of reward, understanding, and this is the next one, right? That the lack of something can be as much of a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the presence of something, right? So the lack of something not being there, despite you wanting it to be there, can be just as much of a gift as receiving exactly what you want. So how do we get to this point of acknowledging this? Asking ourselves, what opportunity am I being presented with in this circumstance? Right? We often think of the happy, easy things as being gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we think of the painful things as tests from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they're not just tests, right? They're gifts as well. The one who provides for us, the one who provides for our needs. And he is Al-Wahhab. I'm seeing that my internet connection is unstable. Is it okay
it was
now?
just coming in and out a little bit, but I think it should be good. I'll let you know again if it happens. Thank you.
Yeah, it's probably because there's somebody that's here fixing the AC. If you see me sweating, it's because I live in Houston and my AC broke down last night. But alhamdulillah, hey, like I'm saying, it's a reward, right? Alhamdulillah, it's a source of hasanat. So it's all good.
Eid. Will it be fixed before Eid? Inshallah.
It should be, inshallah. But we're doing okay, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. So what I was saying was, as in this circumstance, right? Thinking to myself, the lack of something, the lack of this air conditioning being accessible can be as much of a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the presence of it, right? It depends on what we choose to do with it. So knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Razaq, the one who provides for our needs. He is Al-Wahhab, the one who gives gifts, the giver of gifts. Then we realize that everything that is sent our way, whether it's challenging or whether it's filled with ease, is giving us the opportunity to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a different way. Whether it's through gratitude, whether it's through patience, right? Every gift that comes our way, even when the wrapping of the gift looks like a package that, we wish we could refuse at the door and just, return via FedEx, it's an opportunity to fulfill our purpose to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So the question to ask ourselves with regards to this is, how can we turn our Eid experience into this type of opportunity? How can we turn our Eid experience, even if we're worried that we're going to feel lonely, even if we're celebrating this alone, how can we turn our Eid experience into an opportunity to fulfill our purpose in worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and into an opportunity to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So the first thing that I think is really important with that, like we talked about shifting our mindset, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think what's really important is to be able to accept our reality, right? Accept, like mentally prepare yourself from now, accept your reality that, okay, here are going to be the struggles that I might face on Eid, right? Here might be the things that are hard, right? All of this is a test in submission, right? Islam means submission to as-salam, right? The one who provides us with a sense of peace, the one who provides us with a sense of well-being, the one who provides us with a sense of being able to be at peace with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a one who gives us this sense of wholeness, right? Which is a lot of times what we're being really affected by when we're feeling lonely, is that we feel like there's an emptiness versus a wholeness, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as-salam, the one who is the source of that wholeness, right? So Islam is a test in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So accepting our reality, accepting our circumstances is submission. Realizing that there are certain things about our circumstances that we can't change, even if we wish we could, right? And there is an opportunity to accept that and to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, "O you who believe, enter wholeheartedly into submission to God," right? Into submission. And so accepting our circumstances allows us to do this, and it allows us to channel our energy in a positive direction rather than using our energy to fight the unfightable, the unchangeable, which is our current reality, right? So instead of focusing in on what you're missing, that you wish you could experience, focusing in on what you're missing that you're glad you're not experiencing can be another mindset shift that can help, right? Like, what are some things about a typical Eid situation that are a struggle, right? What are some difficulties that you might be being saved from in the current situation, right? Are there community members that you really struggle with? Are there toxic relationships that you would rather not, not have to deal with that person when you see them, when you see them frequently? When we talked about how the shayateen are going to be released, right? So the shaitan is great at tempting us toward gossip. Once we're with people, gossip, backbiting starts to become very frequent, right? There might be worries about, what people might say about you as you're at Eid Salah, or there might be awkward auntie questions, whatever it is, right? The things that you are glad that you are missing out on are things to be thinking about, rather than perpetuating that thought cycle of all the things you wish that you could experience, right? So sometimes the gift is in the actual things that you're not experiencing as well. And the other mindset shift that can be helpful is also focusing in on what you do get to experience instead, right? So having this mentality of, I get to do this. I get to experience this, which is different, right? So, one of the things that I think is really important when we're talking about being alone and struggling with these feelings of loneliness is to realize that sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends people away so that we can find a sense of companionship and connection with Him. Eid is naturally a time of socializing, right? So Eid is not the time when we normally think about connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Eid is the time when after Ramadan, everybody thinks, let's let loose, we're done fasting, you let loose in so many different ways. But instead, this Eid can be an opportunity to continue our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That this Eid, if you're dealing with being alone, you might be feeling a void, right? And so when I thought of that word, I thought of a statement by Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, where he said that in our hearts, there's a void that can't be filled except by the love of Allah, by turning to Him, by remembering Him, by being sincere to Him. And were a person to be given the entire world and everything in it, it would never fill that void. So there may be a void in your Eid celebration this year, but realize that the most important void that could potentially be a factor in our lives is within our grasp to be filled. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Hadith Qudsi, right, that the Rasul says that Allah says, whoever draws close to me by the length of a hand, I will draw close to him by the length of an arm. Whoever draws close to me by the length of an arm, I will draw close to him by the length of a fathom. And whoever comes to me walking, I will come to him running, right? So this Eid, when you're feeling one void, in that you're feeling a void of people, choose to fill the other, meaning that void in our hearts that can only be filled with a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how do we do that? Is we just take a step. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take so many more steps toward us. So telling yourself, even though I can't do the things I would have necessarily enjoyed, I get to. What do I get to do? Is I get to do something pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I get to, like Sheikh Omar said, I get to reach out to people and initiate salam, right? I get to do things immediately after Ramadan to maintain that Ramadan self that I've cultivated, right? To maintain my worship instead of losing it. In Surah Fussilat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that surely people will say, our Lord is Allah, and then remain steadfast. And the angels descend upon them saying, do not fear nor grieve, rather rejoice in the good news of paradise, which you have been promised. We are your supporters in this worldly life and in the hereafter. There you will have whatever your souls desire, and there you will have whatever you ask for. So realizing what's the key in this ayah in these two ayat is the idea of being steadfast, the idea of remaining firm. This Eid, a lot of us have a unique opportunity to remain firm in our worship after Ramadan. We still want to do special things, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. But there's also the beauty of being able to extend that feeling of Ramadan that we've enjoyed, that Iman high that we've enjoyed, the extra worship that we have been able to cultivate, and bring it into the next phase of our lives, the post-Ramadan phase, right? Realizing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just our Lord in Ramadan, but all year round. And so having this sense of steadfastness where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises that if we do, the angels will descend upon us. The angels will welcome us into paradise, that we're going to have whatever we want there and whatever we ask for there, right? SubhanAllah. And that we're going to have angels as our supporters here and inshallah in the hereafter, right? So thinking about this from a different lens of what opportunity, again, do I have that I don't have on a typical Eid? What obligations do I normally have on Eid that I don't have this Eid, which allows me to do something different? And so now just to end my little spiel, there's some practical tips that that inshallah can be helpful to build off of what Sheikh Omar was sharing of practical tips in order to make this Eid still something really enjoyable and special. And that involves making a choice to create a day that you can look forward to. A lot of times we have this idea that based on our circumstances, these joys are going to be taken away. But we have the ability to cultivate the type of day that we want, right? So thinking about planning what you would like to do on that day, despite it being different, in order to make it something enjoyable. So some things, that I would say is, try to pick 3 things that you would like to do on the day of Eid that would make that day feel different from a normal day. Something that you can look forward to doing, right? So, there are a lot of different places that are doing kind of a virtual Eid khutbah, like Sheikh Omar was mentioning. So picking which one you'd like to listen to, because sometimes if you wait until the last moment, there's so many options and you can't choose, right? So choosing which one you'd like to listen to, picking a nice outfit to wear. Try if your masjid is doing, like the drive-through Eid activity, great. If not, then taking a drive and going to like some nice outdoor location that you don't normally frequent. It can be things like baking Eid cookies. That would be like a different thing to be able to do. Dropping off food for somebody, like some of you might have had the experience of either dropping off food or having food dropped off to you by friends this Ramadan, and that's a great feeling, right? So extending that, doing that on Eid. If you live near neighbors that you like, right, and even if they're non-Muslim neighbors, let them know that this day is going to be Eid, and bake them, bring some treats to share with them and let them know, in a socially distanced, compliant way, I'd love to share this with you and everything, so that you have some company and you can feel a sense of celebration, right? If you have kids and, you want to make things really special for them, doing an Eid treasure hunt, like we did with my kids, we did a Ramadan treasure hunt and they loved it. It was really fun. So doing that kind of thing. If you have a project that you've been wanting to do and you didn't have time to do it, you took this day off, right? Make sure you take this day off and, you can work on it. So doing this type of thing, also we talked about extending our worship, right? So doing something that makes you feel good, that is also good, is a way of extending that Ramadan experience. So giving sadaqah. Don't, we do it so often in Ramadan, and often that's where it then stops. Make it a point to not let it stop. Go online on the day of Eid, pick, or in person, whatever it is, and pick a particular charity to intentionally give your sadaqah to on that day, right? To continue to increase the hasanat, to show a sense of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for being blessed with being able to experience Ramadan, right? And then also thinking outside of yourself. A lot of times, we tend to have this experience of feeling lonely, being alone, And we start to imagine that we are the only ones experiencing it, right? So think outside of yourself. Initiate something in your local masjid where you are doing some sort of online Zoom thing, or a socially distant picnic potluck in a park somewhere, if it's feasible, depending on the rules and regulations of wherever you live, right? Initiating a virtual Eid meetup, right? You can either, I don't know if it would be possible, and Sister Hafsa can tell us whether it can be initiated like through the Ramadan 360 page, or if it can be initiated through your local masjid's page or a WhatsApp group that you have, trying to initiate something to connect with people and getting the hasanat, getting the good deeds for being the one to initiate that would be really wonderful. And then also keeping in mind along with this, that the struggles that so many of us are experiencing this Eid are the struggles that our convert and or revert, depending on the terminology you prefer, this is an experience that our convert brothers and sisters experience every Eid. And so allowing that to be a reminder for ourselves that if we don't like this experience for ourselves, right? Because to the part of our deen is to love for ourselves, to love for our brothers what we love for ourselves, right? If we don't like this experience for ourselves, then what are we going to do in future Eids to make sure that nobody has to experience it? And so having this, connecting with our convert brothers and sisters this Eid and throughout continually for future Eids could be a really wonderful after effect of all of this quarantining and things like that. And so I pray that inshallah this Eid will be filled with a unique sense of joy for all of you, and will be a means of us immediately starting to increase and maintain our worship from after this blessed month is done, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan.
That was an amazing reminder. I love there are so many gems coming through about, Allah may have made you lonely so that you can connect with him, subhanAllah. I know there's going to be questions. We only have a brief moment of time to ask them. So everyone please submit them. I see the first one in the Q&A box. So F ears in the Q&A box, and everyone else please in the chats online, inshallah. So the first one's a little bit not Eid focused, but it's saying, if one enjoys being at home with family and working from home and studying online for months, will they need to prepare themselves mentally for when they have to go back into society? And how does one do that wisely? I mean, we would all pray that coronavirus ends after Eid. I don't know if our Ramadan du'as are going to be answered that quickly, but if Sheikh Omar, if you want to tackle that first, and then we'll pick up Sister Sarah.
Absolutely, there would be an adjustment period. I think about this quite often. Like for example, Tuesdays I have to drive an hour each way and back, and I'm loving that I don't have to go. So there absolutely will be an adjustment, just like we had to adjust to not having to drive to school or even be in school, for example. And so just keep up to date on information. Our university has said that fall classes are scheduled to be on campus, so you're going to know well in advance. So mentally making those preparations, maybe blocking off that time at home, like, okay, this would be the time that I'm out, so kind of mirroring that in the home. This is probably something we should be doing anyway, just to be more productive, but just to really kind of get back in that mode of that set schedule, because I do think it's going to be an adjustment period.
Fair enough. Perfect. The next question is, do you have any advice on dealing with loneliness and heartbreak on Eid? It's specifically, I guess, on heartbreak being the highlighter, the different there. Sister Sarah, I think I'll pick on you for that one. I feel like you'd be great to answer that, inshallah.
Sure, inshallah. So with regards to loneliness and heartbreak, on Eid versus other days, whenever a special day comes around, whether it is a holiday, whether it's the anniversary of a marriage after a divorce or the loss of a loved one, special days are always a little bit harder, and it always takes a different type of coping. So one thing that I think is really helpful when we're talking about any type of loss, right? So heartbreak is a type of loss just like so many other types of loss. It's, often something that's kind of undermined, but the pain is really real. There was actually a research study done about rejection, and they monitored people's brain activity, and they found that the same brain areas that are activated when people feel physical pain after being physically hurt are the same brain areas that people experience with heartbreak and feelings of rejection. So it's a very real experience. I think that, creating the idea, we talk about the idea of self-care, and people often have this idea that self-care is, bubble baths, buying yourself like very expensive facials and all of these different things, right? But in reality, it is creating the life that you want so that you don't feel the need to use self-care to run away from that life, right? So it's about creating the life that you don't need to escape from. And so one of the best ways to deal with heartbreak on a day like Eid is to do things that can help take care of yourself. This can be the fun things of, like very special, doing a facial or whatever it is that would be helpful, but it could also be creating an idea of, now that this has happened in my life, how do I want this? How do I want to move forward? What do I want the rest of my life to look like? I'm not going to spend the rest of my life feeling this way. So how can I prep myself to make the most of my life with or without this person in it, right? And so kind of creating a sense of purpose again for yourself. I think any day is great for that, but I think that it's also a really wonderful time to do it now in our last few days of Ramadan, and then continuing to implement that as we go into Eid and beyond, inshallah.
Perfect. The next question actually is a bit interesting. And I know you guys talked about bringing that Eid spirit into the home and whatnot. Will you, either of you, I mean, Sheikh Omar, you still have a baby, so I don't know if you'll be able to talk to her about how Eid is going to be different. I think this might be your first one. Is it? His first one, isn't it? Right? I keep misgendering your child.
Yes,
Sorry.
Yeah.
So are you going to be doing anything different, or do you recommend talking to children about how Eid is going to be different and preparing themselves mentally for it? Or do you think just brushing it over and making it such a grand experience that they'll forget about it is the way to go? And maybe for parents who are of a lower socioeconomic status, who can't maybe go all out, maybe the shipments aren't going to come back in time for the Eid balloons and whatnot, how would you prepare them for it and keep them positive for being that lonely on Eid?
So I think, the younger you start, it would just depend on the children's ages. Ideally, this would be with everything, whether it's Islamic teaching or manners or whatever, is that they basically grow up in a way where that's all that they know. So all they know is when Eid comes, here comes, the decorations and the special foods and things like that. If that's not possible, then, again, it depends on the understanding of the child. So you can tell them, look, this is not going to be like, of course, age appropriate. Why aren't we going to see our grandparents, for example? That can be that really should be tackled head on. Otherwise, that could be kind of devastating for a child. It already is when you tell them, like, don't hug your uncle and things like that. So just speaking to them at an age appropriate level. As for regarding the socioeconomic status, when I say going all out, I certainly don't mean just financially spending a lot of money. And that's one of the beautiful things, that you don't need a lot, to go to the craft store and decorate. And it also forces us to be very creative. So it might actually be an advantage to not be able to just kind of get whatever you want. So I think that can be done really with minimal cost. The key is that it's engaging, and by having everyone participate, not just the adults, but especially the young minds which are forming, it will be memories that they will never forget, inshallah.
I love that answer. The next is, it's a little late in the month for this, but someone's still asking, what is your advice for someone who's finding it difficult to do as much ibadah due to loneliness? So there's a couple more opportunities. They haven't been able to take advantage of the month. A lot of our shuyukh have said, like, motivated people that whatever like moments that we have left, Jasara was mentioning in the beginning, to just embrace them. But what if this person, just thinking about what's upcoming and what's happening now, they just have not been able to, last little bit of motivation would you give them?
So, I think that it's hard when, so our thoughts and our emotions and our actions, behaviors are all intertwined. They're like a triangle, right? So they, if our thoughts are here, our emotions are here, our actions are here, they're all interlinked, right? And so in order to create a shift, you have to just change one of them. Emotions are very hard to change. They're very oftentimes a little bit beyond our control, but our thoughts and actions are not, right? Those are within our control. We can shift it. If you're struggling to shift your thought process away from that feeling of like dread, that, I'm dreading loneliness, right? Then shifting your actions to be in line with where you want to be is very powerful. Right, the Rasul Sallallahu when things were hard, he used to tell Bilal, "Oh Bilal, call the adhan, bring us peace with it." Right? Action through salah. There was a shift emotionally and mentally. Right, so having that, using action to create that shift, then also shifting your mentality. Right, is that okay? I might be struggling. I might be struggling with this right now, which means that inshallah, my reward is amplified, because I'm not only trying to do the actual act of worship and getting rewarded for that, but I'm actually moving forward and going through the actual struggle in order to reach that act of worship. So inshallah, there's multiple rewards for that. So shifting the mentality there. And then the third approach is, if we are trying to do it from the emotional perspective, it's actually sitting with the emotion. And I know that sounds very counterintuitive, right? But a lot of times this dread, this feeling of dread, it's anxiety. And the more we try to push away feelings of anxiety, the more they tend to come up. Because what happens is our brain registers that if you're pushing it away, it's something to be feared and something dangerous. So let me be anxious about it. Let me be vigilant about it. So when you actually sit with it, you breathe through it a little bit, you actually let the anxiety kind of come up, and you ask yourself, okay, worst case scenario, what's going to happen? What's my Eid going to look like? Worst case scenario, right? And you confront that, and you deal with that, and you make a plan in accordance to that. Then suddenly that emotion and that thought is not quite as powerful. So inshallah, those approaches can help just a little bit.
And actually, I know we don't have a lot of time to go really deep into this, but I think two things I found very helpful was, I think Sheikh Omar, it was yourself who wrote an article beginning of Ramadan or just before Ramadan about reframing yourself for Ramadan with Yaqeen Institute. And Sister Sarah, you've been sharing these little pictorials as well. And I think that's a big thing that we have actually highlighted throughout the Ramadan 360 series, but people, that might be a useful resource, is just reframing the way that you're approaching this and turning it from, this is what the situation is, this is what I'm told it is, and then these are all the opportunities that have come out of it, and this is how blessed I've been because of it. And inshallah khair, the Eid will be different, but it will be memorable and it will be a blessing as well. And actually, jazakumullah khair to both of you for providing these resources. I don't know if you have time for an Eid version as well, but jazakumullah khair for giving us those opportunities to rethink our entire approach this Ramadan. I know it's coming close to the hour, so I won't keep you guys too much past it. Jazakumullah khair for those who did submit their questions. And I do want to finally, I just messaged you guys right at the middle of the Q&A, like, I'm just going to put it on gallery view because it's the last time they're going to see you in Ramadan. I hope you don't mind, but I do want to thank you both, mashallah. I've never seen two people tie their professional, their interests and their passions for therapy and counseling, mashallah, in the way that you guys have to the Islamic lens so well, and benefit the community so thoroughly with it. So jazakallah khair. It's been a complete treasure to have you on the Ramadan 360 platform, and we hope to have you back. We don't know what the programming is going to look like. We don't know how long this is going to last, but inshallah khair, if it gives us these opportunities, it's been a gift. So we're grateful for it. And thank you so much. Eid Mubarak to both of you and your families. And inshallah, we'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan for the opportunity to always speak with you all. It's always a privilege, alhamdulillah. Eid Mubarak to everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Eid Mubarak. And also just Hafsa, shout out to you for being a fantastic moderator and seemingly being on every day. So may Allah accept from you. And assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Naved. We'll see you, inshallah.
Alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I didn't rethink that gallery view. Alhamdulillah. Okay, I've switched it off now. So we're free. Sheikh Naveed, mashallah, early bird that you are. I think you were the last person maybe to get the reminder email. So thank you for coming in so quickly. I'm so excited for the panel that we have now, inshallah. I hope that you guys enjoyed Sister Sarah Sultan and Sheikh Omar Husain. Please keep up with their work. If you have any difficulty still at this point, this far in the month of Ramadan, about the ways that you're feeling about it being a very strange month this time around, please follow them, because mashallah, they do an amazing job of doing justice to those topics. Now, Sheikh Naveed, I see that you have, oh, hold on. Are we gonna, I don't know if I should do this to Sheikh Omar. This is the first time he's been on since the whole Dr. Omar, what's the word for it? I can't say fiasco. There's got it's the international kind of acclaim for your mashallah PhD. Jazakumullah khair for everyone joining us. I think I'm going to call you Sheikh Doctor from now on. I know there's
don't do that. It's okay.
There was a whole topic. You started like a whole like a war in the Maghrib staff chat about how what was not and is acceptable to say. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Jazakumullah khair.
Barakallahu feekum. This is the first time we've had you. Actually, I think it's been a while since we've had you all on together. So thank you so much, all three of you, Sheikh Naveed Aziz, Sheikh Omar Salaman, and of course, the big kahuna, Sheikh Muhammad Ashraf, for joining us tonight or today for our Tazkiyah panel. Now, this Ramadan has been very unique, and we've been talking about, loneliness and Eid and whatnot just now. We're hoping to tackle really briefly, really powerfully within the next hour or so on the topic of Tazkiyah. I'm really excited to see your approaches leading outside of Ramadan, how we can enable that and how we can bring that into our lives, inshallah, and maintain our momentum exiting the month. So we will start, inshallah, by picking on Sheikh Muhammad, who's been very quietly sneaking into the room. How are you doing, Sheikh Muhammad? How is Dubai treating you?
I'm good. Alhamdulillah. My salams to Dr. Omar Sulaiman and my twin, Sheikh Naveed Aziz.
We were in Malaysia together last time as I was going to the university for the last time, but I was I was really, really, really sick, and so Sheikh Muhammad Sharif was like my nurse. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh.
Oh, okay. So I made you guys the gallery view. I think it's such a gift of an opportunity to see all three of you at once. So inshallah, we will have you start off, Sheikh Muhammad, on your topic, and we'll transition inshallah to Sheikh Naveed and Sheikh Omar. And we have a couple minutes at the end of the session. We will try to squeeze in a Q&A. Jazakumullah khair for all of you for joining us, and Bismillah, let's kick it off.
So I'm up? Yeah? All right. Take one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala, amma ba'd. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. When people go for Hajj and people go for Umrah, and I tell them, I go, this is Ibrahim alayhi salam built the Kaaba with his own hands. And when he was building the Kaaba with his son and they're raising the bricks, Ibrahim alayhi salam made a dua. His dua was, رَبَّنَا وَبَعَثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. Whoever is half of the Quran, for all the hafad, like shout out for you guys leading prayers in Ramadan time. This verse, what comes first? وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ or وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, or is it وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ? Right? There's two of them. So Ibrahim alayhi salam's dua was the one when it's Ibrahim alayhi salam saying it. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ comes at the end. So he says, يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, send amongst them a messenger who will teach them, يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ, teach them the book, وَالْحِكْمَةَ, and the sunnah, the wisdom, وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, and purify them. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is glorifying himself subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying, I send the messenger amongst you. And by the way, Ibrahim, and this is the dua that Ibrahim alayhi salam made for the ummah, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I am the accepted dua, the answered dua of my father Ibrahim alayhi salam. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Allah Azza wa Jalla in the Quran says, هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ. He's the one who sent from amongst them a messenger. رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. He recites the verses, وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, and he purifies them. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, and teaches them the kitab, the book, and hikmah, the sunnah. So what's interesting is that Ibrahim alayhi salam put this on a list of 4 things he's making dua for. Tazkiyah comes in at number 4. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers the dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that purification recites the verses and purifies them and teaches them the kitab and the hikmah, showing us the importance of this tazkiyah, this purification that we seek out. And alhamdulillah, here in Ramadan, as we come to the final hours of Ramadan, I contemplate what the metaphor for Ramadan is. So a lot of people, when you think of metaphor, Ramadan is like, and now let's get some interaction. I'd like to actually hear from you. If you guys could, I know not everybody's here in the chat, but can you tell me what metaphor you have for Ramadan? Ramadan is like. This is for my own learning. I'd like to see what you guys say. And the shuyukh are welcome to pitch in. Ramadan is like, Hafsa says, a guest. Somebody else? Ramadan is like modesty. I don't know what that means. Ramadan is like rahmah. So I'm thinking of, let's say, no, forget what Ramadan is. I said, what is Ramadan like? So I'm looking for something like Ramadan is like a guest that comes from out of town to visit you. That's why you should clean your house. Yeah, I'm looking for something like that. Okay, Amina says a spiritual clinic. It's like starting a new leaf. Okay, maybe you guys don't understand what I'm talking about. Okay, Ramadan is like springtime new. Does any, oh, okay, this is exactly what I was gonna ask. So Latifa says it's like a special period. I was gonna say that some people think of Ramadan, and there's a metaphor for this, it's like a special offer, a special limited time offer. So they'll say, for example, hey, we got Ramadan is like a special limited time offer where your good deeds are increased and such, and people put in a lot of effort. And that's true. But I want to give you another metaphor for Ramadan, because this idea that Ramadan is a special offer and then it's over, or that Ramadan is a foreign guest that comes and then leaves, I think does a disservice what Ramadan is teaching us in purification. So the metaphor of a special guest that comes and visits us, the metaphor continues that the guest has left us and now we've gone back to our own lives. Or the idea of Ramadan being a special offer is also limited time. It's the offer is over, so go back to normal, not purchasing and not partaking of this. So this is my metaphor for you. It's really, I thought about it, and hopefully you guys can give me a better metaphor than this. Ramadan is a career college or a vocational institute or a trade school that is training you for your life outside of this college. How about that? How about that? Ramadan is and I know no one has ever said that metaphor ever in the history. Ramadan is a vocational institute. And the reason I don't say gym, because somebody might say it's a spiritual gym, it's like making you stronger. The problem with gyms is they don't prepare you for real life. Gyms are just fake. You just go, you build up your muscles, and then you never use it outside. That's why I don't like the metaphor for gym. But I like the idea of a vocational institute, a vocational school or trade school, because you're in Ramadan preparing, as the verse says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum. It was written for you so that you would have taqwa, so that you would be purified, so that you would be trained for your career as a muttaqi, a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the lessons that you're learning in Ramadan, in this vocational training, this career college, your career as Abdullah. And this is Ramadan training you for after Ramadan. And you know Sheikh Navid's going to use that in his speech. It's okay, Sheikh Navid. You can use it. All right, so when the last 10 nights of Ramadan came along, I felt very anxious. And I get this anxiety when this limited time of ibadah comes upon me. I start thinking to myself, I can't do enough. And then you get all these well-meaning Instagram posts where people are like, you know, every second of Laylatul Qadr night is worth a gazillion. You'll never be able to calculate it. And one brother was like, I can't even go to the bathroom because I feel like how much time am I missing from a Laylatul Qadr night? It's very, very kind of like like the anxiety level. I don't know if you guys felt it. You're welcome also. Tell me in the comments if you felt that anxiety. I don't like to feel like that. I don't like that ibadah comes with anxiety. I would rather, and I used to say this, many years ago, I think it was like 2008, where I said, and actually Al-Maghrib Institute, let's start with the Al-Maghrib Institute. My whole philosophy with the Al-Maghrib Institute was, why do we have to have a horrible educational experience when we're studying Islam? Why does everybody have to be frowning? Why does everybody have to be having this painful experience? And if they have a painful Islamic educational experience, then they don't want to continue in it. So when Ramadan came along, like 2008, I said, why does Ramadan feel like everybody's holding their breath until the month is over so that they can go on and get back with their lives? And why is it? Now I'm asking the question, why is it when the last 10 nights of Ramadan come along, there's so much anxiety? There's so much anxiety, like, oh, I'm gonna miss this. We're so focused on what we're gonna miss out that we're not present and our heart's not there to partake in this. So this is how I solved it. I made a checklist. I made a checklist of, this is the ibadah that I wanna do on the last 10 nights of Ramadan each night, and just be consistent with it. And there were some nights where I thought, hey, you know what, I can do more. And if you want to do more, no problem. But I kept falling back on consistency, consistency, consistency. And where this shines, like, sure, on the 27th night, maybe you had some amazing motivation, but where it shines is on the 29th night, when everybody else's motivation has gone down. Yeah, they worship like really big on the 27th night, but on the 29th night or the 28th night, that's where consistency kicks in. So that's my first advice for you, is consistency. And so the Prophet ﷺ said that the most beloved actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those that are done consistent, even if they're small. And I would remind myself of that Muhammad in these last 2 nights, that it's not about doing a mountain load of ibadah one night and then going to sleep the next. It's about being consistent. And I reminded myself, Muhammad, don't worry if it seems like it's less. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah loves this bet more. So it's the consistent actions you want. And then after Ramadan, and continuing the spirituality, if Ramadan is a vocational training college to prepare you afterwards, you don't want to shut off after Ramadan. What you want to do is you want to build some habits. So when this pandemic, this is the last point that I'll make, and I'll hand it off. When this pandemic happened and the lockdowns and the quarantines and everybody was like shut down in their house, I remember like 2 months ago, people, like, it was like a deer in headlights. We didn't know what to do. And the reason we didn't know what to do is because we hadn't built up any habits of life at home. But after 2-3 weeks, those habits started returning. And I kind of told myself, look, Muhammad, you're in this state of paralysis because you don't have habits. So what you need to do is just calm down and write down some habits. We all have habits, but unfortunately, a lot of our habits are, we haven't thought them out and they don't serve us over the long term. So this is my final advice for you. I would recommend that you choose 5 small, consistent habits. 5 small, consistent habits, things that maybe even you belittle them. So it might be like, for your health, you'd say, you know what, after I finish Salah, I'm gonna do 5 push-ups after each Salah, something small, but consistent. And you'll find over time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, hey, it's really working out really great. Maybe you've got a Quran habit and you'll say, hey, you know what? My habit is to keep my Quran beside me when I pray. And my habit could be just as simple as opening the front cover, just like that. Because who opens the front cover and then doesn't read? Yeah, make your habit something small, something consistent, set the time, what you're gonna do, keep it short, and just build these habits into your life. Choose 5 habits, and inshallah ta'ala, that will help you continue what you've learned in Ramadan in this vocational training for life as a muttaqi. Inshallah ta'ala, you can carry that forward with the power of habits. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah khair, Sheikh Muhammad. I'm sorry to tell you, there was a lot of people who said training ground and boot camp in the Facebook comments. So you may not be the first, but you'll definitely be like the 28th person who came.
I actually don't agree with the boot camp analogy.
Really? Oh, yeah, you said.
It's like the gym, because when you go to boot camp, nobody actually applies what they learned at boot camp.
That's true. That's true. And I like that. Actually, I appreciated the post and the mess. I think it was a live stream that you did on Facebook about not letting yourself like stress out about the last 10 nights and every second is worth this much and every 23 hours of a life. And this So that was helpful because a lot of us put a lot of pressure, especially because we're at home. We have no excuse. But I hope that we were able to make the most out of Ramadan with that advice. So jazakumullah khair for that and for everything you've been doing with us through Ramadan. We'll pass off to Sheikh Naveed. I'm glad we're back in Mecca or Medina. Sorry, Sheikh Naveed.
Back in Medina, that's it.
Very quick trip that you made, mashallah.
I've left Pado Lake and I'm back in Medina now, alhamdulillah.
I was actually going to tease you. I was like, shit, Sheikh, where's Medina? What happened? So you like, and I have nothing to say. So I guess
alhamdulillah.
Inshallah. Bismillah, let's kick you off for your session.
Bismillah. Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. I know Hafsa loves hearing stories. So I'm going to share a story about Sheikh Muhammad. This was 2005. I'm a first year Sharia student and I've just come back to Montreal. And Sheikh Muhammad is teaching Usul al-Fiqh for Al-Maghrib in Montreal. And I'm attending this class and I was actually pretty amazed. I'm like, man, this is pretty fun and very different than what I was used to. And it's important to understand what was happening in Medina at that time for me. I had attended a whole year of Sahih al-Bukhari and I had this Bedouin teacher that was so disrespectful. He looked in terrible shape always because he was a farmer by profession and he taught part-time and his clothes were always dirty. And I had a very terrible experience there. And then when I was actually doing my first year of Usul al-Fiqh in Sharia, it was one of the most difficult classes I ever took. I'm like, man, I'm not prepared for this. So attending Sheikh Muhammad's class in Montreal was actually a breath of fresh air. And I remember that during one of the breaks, I'm like, I got to ask him a question. Like, how did he make such a terrible, difficult subject so easy and so engaging? So he's walking to the bathroom. I'm like, hey, do you mind if I ask you a question? And he's like, I'm on my way to the bathroom. And I didn't understand what that meant. I was like, okay, I'll ask you to the way to the bathroom and you can do your thing, whatever. So I walk with him to the bathroom. I'm like, hey, how do I become a good teacher? How do I become a good teacher? And as was typical of Sheikh Muhammad, he never answers your question straight on. He'll tell you some random tangent. And I don't even remember what the random tangent was, subhanAllah. But I do remember that he did take the time to acknowledge my question. And I actually taught Usul al-Fiqh as a boot camp for, when that class was over, so people could take their exam and be prepared. And alhamdulillah, it seems people did pretty well. Now, the reason why I mentioned this story is because throughout life, you will come across people that are going to inspire you in different ways. Throughout life, you're going to come across people that are going to help you in different ways and teach you different things. Now, what I wanted to focus on in my session on Tazkiyah was there's actually a saying that Ibn Rajab, rahimahullah, he brings forth as a parable. He says the rest of the months compared to Ramadan is like the brothers of Yusuf compared to Yusuf. So Yusuf alayhi salam was this special entity compared to the rest of his brothers. And that's what I want to focus on, that if you look towards the ending of Surah Yusuf, there's a dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserves for us at the ending. And this is like Yusuf's farewell words to his story. At this point, the story comes to an end, but the surah continues. And Yusuf alayhi salam, he goes on to say, رَبِّ قَدْ آتَيْتَنِي مِنَ الْمُلْكِ وَعَلَّمْتَنِي مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ فَاطِرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَنْتَ وَلِيِّي فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ توفني مسلما والحقني بالصالحين. Yusuf alayhi salam, he goes on to say, "Oh my Lord, you have given me from power and from kingdom, and you've taught me the interpretation of dreams. Originator of the heavens and the earth, let me die. You are my close, intimate friend in this life and the next. Let me die as a Muslim and unite me with the righteous. Unite me with the righteous." Now, I want to focus on something particular that I have learned this Ramadan. So this Ramadan, one of my goals was to do a tafsir of Surah Yusuf and extract some reflections on it. And that was basically my whole focus for this Ramadan. And one of the things that you look at in Surah Yusuf, my dear brothers and sisters, is that there's 3 incidents of betrayal that Yusuf alayhi salam goes through. And these incidents of betrayal are no small things. The first of them, as we know, is with his brothers, who are meant to look after him. They're meant to take care of him. They're meant to be role models for him. Yet these are the same individuals that threw him into the well. The second incident was when Yusuf alayhi salam is sold into slavery. Al-Aziz takes him into his house and he tells his wife, "Asa an yanfa'na aw nattakhidhahu walada," that perhaps he will benefit us or we will take him as a son. Now, he's told this to his wife, and his wife is meant to take care of him and treat him like a son and give him the best possible treatment. Yet she is the same one that tries to seduce him later on in life. Can you imagine the type of betrayal that must have felt like? And then later on in the story, when he is in prison, he helps out his fellow companions. He interprets a dream for them. And he gives his companions just one task, just one simple task, subhanAllah. He tells them that when you get out, mention my name to the king, mention my name to your master so that he can get me out of prison. Just this one simple task, subhanAllah. Yet they forget, completely forgot, just one simple task, and he forgot that. If I was to add a fourth, later on in the story, when Yusuf alayhi salam, plants the cup in Benjamin's, stuff, the brothers turn on Yusuf again. They say that, if Benjamin has stolen, then know that he had a brother who had also stolen in the past. And that's the fourth act of betrayal. Now, yet throughout all of this, Yusuf alayhi salam, he's found a way to deal with his trauma. He's found a way to make sure that he doesn't take things personally. And this is what I wanted to emphasize, that, one of the things I've learned this Ramadan is that when you reflect on Surah Yusuf, how do you learn not to take things personally? Because part of the spiritual process, part of the tazkiyah element, is emptying out your heart from hatred and malice towards people, particularly those that are meant to take care of you and love you, yet they end up betraying you, right? How do you get rid of that animosity and that malice that you may feel? So here's one tip from Surah Yusuf. If you look throughout Surah Yusuf, anyone that has betrayed him, Yusuf alayhi salam always blames shaitan for it. He always blames shaitan. So the first time you see this is in the prison, when the man who was with him was supposed to mention his name to the king. He says that shaitan made him forget. Shaitan made him forget. It wasn't his fault. And then later on in the story, when you look at the way his brothers treated him, he says that the shaitan had planted the seed of dissent amongst us. Shaitan had planted the seed of dissent amongst us. He doesn't blame the brother. And then in terms of when he deals with the issue of the wife of Al-Aziz who tried to seduce him, his statement is وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي, that I don't free myself from blame. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَعَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. Surely there's an element inside of our nafs that is inclined towards evil. So he's always making excuses towards people, either blaming it on shaitan or blaming it on the nafs. And this is something very profound, that when people do hurt you, are you able to find a way out for them and not keep it in your heart so that you're holding this grudge? And this is a trick that we learned from Surah Yusuf, that you blame it on shaitan, you blame it on the nafs, and you do find excuses for them. And this is very valuable because this leads us to a second point. Often when people don't deal with their trauma and they don't deal with the hurt that they feel, they'll end up blaming Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They'll end up blaming Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see this quite often, that why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow this to happen to me? Why me? And we question certain things like that. But if you look at Surah Yusuf again, every single time Yusuf alayhi salam calls out to Allah, he says, Rabbi. He doesn't say Rabbana, oh our Lord, or he doesn't say Rabbuk. He says Rabbi, he says my Lord. He's developed this personal connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where he speaks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He engages in conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why that conversation is able to become so intimate, because his heart is pure towards others. And that has led him not to blame anyone, not to blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now when you look at this dua comes from a place of gratitude, where he's been able to forget all the calamity, all of the hardship, all of the trials that he's gone through, and he's praising and thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the two things that he thanks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for are his position of power and his ability to interpret dreams. You'll notice that he didn't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something generic. He didn't say, oh Allah, I thank you for eyesight, or oh Allah, I thank you for the ability to smell, or anything like that. He chose very specific things. And this is the second point I wanted to share with you, is that when you are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look for the things that are specific to you. Look for the things that are specific to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed each and every one of us in a specific way that the vast majority of mankind will not have. Yes, there will be other people that will share in that blessing, but it is one of the things that is exclusive to you and specific to you. That's what you want to look at. And that's where true gratitude comes from. So when you look at the asala of kufr, of disbelief, its essence is ingratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the exact opposite of it, which is Islam, is the epitomization or pinnacle of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, particularly for those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. I know my time is running out shortly. I'll try to wrap this up quickly. Point number 3, he says, oh Allah, let me die as a Muslim. Let me die as a Muslim. And this is truly amazing that he's asking Allah as a prophet of Allah, let me die as a Muslim. And this is a point of reflection, that being born into Islam, how many of us are grateful for the Islam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. But the point I want to establish over here is, I want you to imagine the spiritual rejuvenation that Sheikh Muhammad was talking about that we experience in the month of Ramadan. Can we make dua that, oh Allah, keep me steadfast after Ramadan, just like you kept me steadfast in Ramadan, as a point of reflection? That, oh Allah, just as I'm living as a Muslim, let me die as a Muslim as well. And constantly engaging in this dua with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognizing the blessing of Islam upon us and this blessing of Ramadan upon us. SubhanAllah, billions of people on the planet, yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the Muslims with this month of Ramadan, something to reflect on. And the last thing that I'll mention is that he concludes with, وَالْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ, that, oh Allah, reunite me with the righteous. And it's interesting to find that the scholars of tafsir mention that Yaqub alayhi salam passed away shortly after they were reunited, and Yusuf alayhi salam, he died about 3 years after. So when Yusuf alayhi salam is making this dua, he's basically saying that, oh Allah, let me be reunited with the righteous, meaning my father, whom he was deprived of for so long in this life, that he'll get to spend time with in the hereafter, and his forefathers like Ishaq and Ibrahim, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions at the beginning of the surah, that he completed his favor upon them. That favor being that they are going to be from the inhabitants of paradise in the afterlife. And this is the final point I wanted to conclude with, is that what are you looking forward to in the hereafter? What are you looking forward to in the hereafter? For Yusuf alayhi salam, it was to be reunited with the righteous, with his forefathers. And each and every one of us has something specific that we want to see from the akhirah. So when you're looking at spirituality and how to facilitate your submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's what spirituality is in its essence, the facilitation of submission to Allah. What are you looking forward to as a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us Jannah and make us from those that are accepted from in this month and those that are freed from the hellfire. Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullahu khairan wa sallallahu sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Barakallahu feekum. Wow, I don't know what to do with all this extra time. SubhanAllah, we are under time right now. So inshallah, we will have time for a bit of a Q&A at the end for everyone who's asking and who's submitting questions. I'll pass it off inshallah to Sheikh Omar. I have to ask you for forgiveness exiting Ramadan, Sheikh. I don't know what it is. I cannot introduce you without embarrassing you. Sheikh Saad teased me about, he's saying like, SubhanAllah, like I just look forward to your light roast every time you introduce me. And I think there's a, if I like you guys, I'll do a proper introduction. I'll just give you your little resume and then I'll pass it off. But if you're at another level, like I have to just embarrass you to a point before I give it off to you. So Jazakallah khair for putting up with it. And I look forward to your reflections on Tazkiyah lessons from Ramadan, inshallah. I'll pass it off to you. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين والعاقبة للمتقين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ورسولك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. So first of all, roast away, inshallah, it's fine. Look forward to them. And secondly, to build on the beautiful remarks of Sheikh Muhammad and Sheikh Naveed, particularly this idea of, Yusuf alayhi salam and capturing on this, the moments that this special, capturing the moments that this special month has, and then transferring the barakah of this month throughout. The way that I like to think about this, sort of as a tip, every year when I go to Hajj, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us this year, because Allah knows best, and may Allah facilitate it for everyone that's trying to go to Hajj, that made the intention to go to Hajj, and give them the reward of that. I'll ask myself a question, what is this Hajj going to be defined by in terms of what is the thing that I want to take from this Hajj? So it's one special dua, one act of worship, one thing to really take from me, to really take with me from this Hajj. I think this year I've been approaching Ramadan this way, and I'd like to suggest to others to really approach the end of Ramadan in this way. What is it that I want to keep with me as a habit with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beyond this month? However, I think that one of the big mistakes that we make when discussing the subject is that we fail to see the inseparable nature of sinful habits with the ability to do good habits. And so in Ramadan, people put aside their Netflix and Hulu subscriptions and they watch religious content instead. People stay, engaged with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through trying to finish their Quran goals and fasting and abstaining from certain things. People who typically listen to certain things don't listen to them in Ramadan. People that are accustomed to cursing tend to watch their mouths a little bit more in Ramadan, right? But the point is that while it's relative what it is that you are giving up, the idea that there is a sense of purification that is taking place during the day that prepares you for prayer during the night. And so my suggestion to everyone is that as you're thinking about what you're taking with you beyond this Ramadan, if they can be 2 rak'ahs, because what you don't want to happen is that you come out of Ramadan and you're still written amongst al-ghafilin, you're written amongst the heedless. You don't want to be one of those people. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man qama bi ashri ayat," that whoever stands up at night with just 10 ayat, with just 10 verses of the Quran, lam yuktab min al-ghafilin, that person will not be written from. That literally could be, 2 short surahs or even, 1 surah in Juz' Amma that you stand up with every single night from now on as your qiyam al-layl, and do it before you sleep, and then you perform your witr, and it's as if you prayed the entire night. So taking 2 rak'ahs with you from this Ramadan, nightly rak'ahs, the performance of 2 nightly rak'ahs is probably the best thing that you can do for yourself in terms of consistent ibadah. Of course, that is beyond building on the obligations, because the most beloved of deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as-salatu li waqtiha, is prayer at the beginning of its time, and the most beloved nafila prayer, the most beloved voluntary prayer, is that prayer at night that is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And don't set too crazy of a goal, just 2 rak'ahs that you're going to keep with you. But also think about the cancellation of a bad habit. I think that when I read one of the sayings of the Salaf, who, when he was asked, I believe it was Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala, why is it that we can't wake up and pray Qiyam al-Layl? And he said, do not disobey him in the day and he will wake you up at night. Do not disobey Allah during the day and he will wake you up at night. That's the connection of fasting to the prayer at night, right? That we are spending the days abstaining from disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even some of the things permissible for the sake of getting close to him. And then at night, we are continuing to forsake those sins. And instead of forsaking the permissible food and drink during the day, we're forsaking permissible sleep at night, all for the sake of gaining closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot separate those 2 things from each other. And so the main thing that I will say is, before you even get to Eid, press cancel on a few things, delete a few things. Don't go back to certain habits that, while they might not be obnoxiously sinful in their exterior, but really have the potential to corrode the soul and the heart and the soul, so that a person cannot enjoy that closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at night. And so think about 2 rak'ahs that I'm going to keep with me, inshallah ta'ala, after Ramadan, and think about what I'm going to cancel, what I'm going to relinquish. That's not obnoxiously sinful. Again, it's just that this does away with something in my heart and soul that doesn't allow me to taste the sweetness of that ibadah, which is inevitably going to be reduced after Ramadan. And the last thing I'll say is this: Allah is so merciful that it could literally be that last minute of Ramadan that you say, it's that last minute of Salat al-Asr or before Salat al-Maghrib on the last day of Ramadan, and you just say, "Oh Allah, forgive me. Oh Allah, accept. Oh Allah, have mercy on me. Oh Allah, cover my shortcomings. Oh Allah, accept my deeds that had inherent shortcomings in them. Oh Allah, forgive me. Oh Allah, accept me. Oh Allah," just these very basic du'as, these basic ad'iyah. But if they're sincere, in that last minute of Ramadan, they could be tremendously profound. One of my habits, and I pray inshallah ta'ala, and I only divulge it to because it's a community thing that we would try to do over here too. I'd recommend a few brothers and sisters to do it here as well. And under normal circumstances, is that to spend the last hour of Ramadan in the masjid, just making dua, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for acceptance, like Sheikh Muhammad was talking about, Rabbana taqabbal minna, and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Spend the last hour of Ramadan reading Quran and making dua. And that's going to be essential for each one of us. And that 1 hour might be more valuable than any hour on the last 10 nights and any hour throughout the month of Ramadan, because it was a sincere expression of hope and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness and mercy to cover everything that came before. The Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would forgive a person until the moment that they start foaming at the mouth, talking about death, right? So the last moments of death where a person starts to foam at the mouth, Allah Azza wa Jal would forgive a person so long as they call upon him asking for forgiveness before that moment. And so, alhamdulillah, Allah got us through this Ramadan. Allah knows if we'll live to see Eid, but alhamdulillah, we made it this far. So let's spend the last hour, inshallah ta'ala, of Ramadan asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness and focusing on that. Make your Eid plans in the day and then spend the last hour of the day, inshallah ta'ala, just doing that. Wa jazakumullah khair.
Jazakumullah khair. And I specifically like that final advice. I hope that everyone takes advantage. We've had a lot of questions of people who are like, I haven't taken advantage of the entire month. Alhamdulillah, we have an odd night left and we have hours still left for the next couple of days. Inshallah, we can take advantage of. We'll jump right into alhamdulillah, it's a treat that we have just over 20 minutes left for our Q&A portion. So everyone, please feel free to submit them once again in the Q&A box or on Facebook and YouTube in the chats, and I'll try to catch up with all of them, inshallah. Starting with the first question submitted on Faith Essentials is, what would you advise to those who are dealing with bereavement of a loved one, specifically the father of a family? Ramadan has been difficult because of the absence, but also a comfort because of the ibadah. How can we apply this to Eid when he won't be here and when we don't have the luxury of being around friends and family either? And I'll leave the floor open, inshallah. We'll have all of you, whoever wants to take it first, inshallah. Kind of depressing. Nobody wants to jump on it. Okay,
no, if my fellow instructors don't mind, I'll take this question, inshallah. You know, subhanAllah, my father passed away in September, rahimahullah. And this is my first Ramadan without him as well. And I've shared this, I think, on the very first, Quran vibe that we had together, that my father left this legacy of Ramadan of being in the masjid and making the adhan for every Maghrib as far as I can remember, and also feeding people for every Ramadan as he was able to go to the masjid. And when he was not able to go to the masjid anymore, he would just order boxes of dates and have them distributed across the city, subhanAllah. So this Ramadan has been very difficult because it's just so different not having someone call me, asking how I'm doing, asking, when is Ramadan starting, asking when is, Eid going to be, asking what lectures I'm doing, just, taking that particular interest. So I know that it is definitely difficult, and I relate to that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for the individual, for the family, and for all of their loved ones. And I think part of the reflection has to be, and this was like the advice that I received from Sheikh Walid and many of my fellow instructors, that as children, we are the greatest sadaqah jariyah for our parents. So the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed you to worship Allah in the month of Ramadan, that is a sadaqah jariyah on behalf of your father. And you guys should be proud and should be happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you that tawfiq to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that the reward is being shared with your father by every act of good deed you are doing, and the amount of happiness it will bring to him when he sees those good deeds, and on the day of judgment as those deeds are placed on his scale of good deeds. The second thing that I would mention is never ever try to replace a feeling. There's nothing that will ever replace the feeling of your father or your mother or the barakah that they brought to your life. But what I can say is try to cherish the moments that you still remember, and try to understand and embrace the fact that they cannot be replaced, but you can have different types of experiences and other types of happiness. You can have other types of experiences and other types of happiness. You don't have to replace them, but rather you can have new ones and cherish the old ones that you still have. And for me, that was a game changer, because I kept thinking of, I have to keep comparing every moment that I had with my father with a new moment now when my father isn't here, and you're comparing apples and oranges. It's not possible to do that. And the third and last thing that I would mention is, yes, you may not have the extended family. Yes, you may not have your friends this Ramadan, but whoever you do have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed them in your life for a reason at this time. and you have to be grateful. You can't be like, oh, I'm missing out on so much and neglect what's right there in front of you, but rather embrace what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you right here, right now, because they're in your life for a reason. So if they're your siblings, your mother, whoever else is there, embrace them, try to bring joy with them. And you'll notice that if you can try to cheer them up in any subtle ways by getting them gifts, telling them jokes on the day of Eid, doing fun activities together, that'll naturally bring happiness to you. And that will be the legacy that your father would have wanted, of bringing happiness to the family and enjoying Eid and worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are just some basic remarks that I wanted to share from my own experience. And I hope and pray it's of benefit. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make things easy for all of us. Ameen.
Ameen. Jazakumullah khair for your vulnerability and your openness again, Sheikh Navaid. The next question, and I think it's a bit of a big one, is how do you know that Allah is pleased with you exiting out of Ramadan? And how do you know your du'as and your salah and your fast have been accepted? Is there any signs that you can look for? Is there, because some people are very anxious, thinking just like Umrah or Hajj or whatnot, they come home and they're wondering, did this count for anything? Did I make up for all the mistakes that I made? So what are the signs that it was accepted? Do you know if it's accepted at all? I'm going to pick on you, Sheikh Muhammad, for that one.
You said Sheikh Muhammad, right?
Yes, that's Sheikh Muhammad.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala amma ba'd. So that comes from, I guess we live in a culture where we want certainty at all times. And so it's like every salah we want, I need confirmation that Allah accepted this. Next fast, I need confirmation that Allah accepted this. And so that's one side, wanting the confirmation. But on the other side is like, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this good deed or not? Actually, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the people of paradise, and they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَقُلُوبُهُمْ وَجِلَةٌ أَنَّهُمْ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ رَاجِعُونَ. That their hearts are like, they're still, they're shaking and they're worried that was my deeds accepted. And you'll see that the benefit of that we don't know if our deeds are accepted or not, is that we spend our whole life worshiping Allah, hoping that, just like actually what Sheikh Omar said, like even in the last hour, continue to worship Allah. But what if you knew that at the beginning of Ramadan, you prayed and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted, and you'd be like, hey, I don't need to worship in the last hour because mine was already accepted. See you guys later. I'm going shopping for Eid or something, right? That attitude of continuously worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there's one point that I want to if you continue to do good deeds, follow up good deeds after doing a good deed, as the scholars say, that's a good sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted your deeds, and the reward is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you to be able to do good deeds afterwards. And if you follow up your good deeds with like just horrible deeds, we all commit sins, but like really, really bad stuff, like somebody just goes downhill afterwards. Number one, I would tell you and remind myself to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understand that we all commit sins, and take it as an opportunity to learn these lessons from Ramadan, repent, and come back to Allah. Allah.
Perfect. Jazakumullah khair for that. The next question is, do you have any tips to share? Actually, Sheikh Omar, I might pick on you for this one. Can you please share some tips on gaining sincerity in public and private? Even in private, sometimes I'll get thoughts like, if somebody knew I did this, they will think I'm a righteous person, even though I have no plans on letting them know.
Yeah, so in public, it's to show off in public is riya, and so the cure for riya is ikhlas, the sincerity. And so basically what that means is you want to save yourself from the sight of people so that it's only Allah's sight upon your actions. In private, the disease is called ujb, which is to be conceited. And you basically want to save yourself from your own sight, not the sight of people, but from your own sight. And the cure of that is sidq, is truthfulness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first way to look at this is to say that riya is easier to fall into than ujb. Okay, so if a person takes the necessary steps to save themselves from the sight of people, then inshallah ta'ala, they'll be able to take the necessary steps just sort of as a natural follow-up to save themselves from their own sight in private. The way that you would do this is that first and foremost, it's not about doing the deeds only in private. It's about doing the deeds consistently, whether someone sees them or not, because the only one who you are seeking in terms of sight is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether others are in the room or not. So, it's sort of like from an ikhlas perspective, think if someone really important was in the room, super important was in the room, you wouldn't even notice the others that walked in and out, right? At that point, because you're too focused on the object of your adoration. With the case of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you want to be so focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it doesn't matter who else is in the room, private or public. And so the consistency of those deeds is important. Would I stop doing them if the public is not there? Or do I keep doing them? And then, what I have to ask myself is, when I do them, when it's only Allah watching me, does the quality of those deeds suddenly diminish? And so, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, لا يعرف الخلق والخالق أحد ثم يؤثر معاملة الخلق على الخالق, that no one knows the sight of both the creator and the creation, and then chooses the sight of the creation to the creator. So it's just got to be about consistency with those deeds in private and in public. And one of the ways that you ensure sincerity is that you have deeds that are only done in private, that no one sees but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, building on that, when it comes to ujub, which is to be conceited and say if people knew, then they would say this, and that. It's important for us to recognize that we have a human emotion, which is the desire to be celebrated, but we postpone that desire to be celebrated to the hereafter. When we receive our books in our right hand, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we are not going to be humble with those books. We're not going to hide those books, inshallah, in our right hands, right? If we receive our books in our right hand, may Allah make us amongst those that receive our books in our right hand. We're not going to go back to, the gathering everyone and, put our books down and hold them like this and say, oh, what happened? You say, oh, no, alhamdulillah, don't really want to talk about it. Alhamdulillah, everything's okay. No, it's going to be, ha umuqra'u kitabiyya. Hey, everyone, check it out. Here it is, that qiyam, here's that sadaqah, here's that salah, here's all that stuff that no one knew about that I was preparing for this day. So we postpone the desire to be celebrated to the hereafter, right? So that's natural. Those emotions, if people knew, is natural. However, what you have to do is you have to drown out the if people knew my good deeds with if people knew my sins. And if I don't know my own sins, if I don't know my own faults, then I need to do some deeper introspection as to what my own flaws are, and start rectifying them properly.
Beautiful. Jazakumullah khair, Sheikh. The next I'm going to tackle with Sheikh Naveed, and that is, how do you ensure that you are not amongst the people that the Prophet ﷺ cursed because they are not forgiven in Ramadan?
SubhanAllah. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala amma ba'd. Now, if you look at the hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions this, he mentions three things in that hadith. He mentions the one that has one or both parents alive and does not attain forgiveness by serving them, the one that lives through Ramadan and does not experience forgiveness by the end of it, and the one who, when he hears the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's name, does not send salah and salam upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Jibreel said Ameen to this, and the Prophet said Ameen to this. So it is a very powerful and scary hadith. Now, one of the things that stands out over here is that there's three, categories of rights that need to be fulfilled. The rights of your parents, the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the rights of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I think that is what needs to be understood, that are we trying our best to fulfill the rights of the people? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not concerned about the final results, because as human beings, we will always fall short. But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concerned with is the effort. So as long as we try our utmost best to fulfill the rights of the people, the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the rights of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then we should consider ourselves from those that will be forgiven and those that will be embraced. You know, this concept of fear-driven worship that Sheikh Muhammad highlighted in his presentation is a very real concept that a lot of people suffer from. But what we need to do to counter that is the optimism that the Quran inspires in us, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not repeat that He is Shadidul Iqab over and over again. He mentions it a few times in the Quran, but He repeats over and over again that He is Ghafur Rahim. He keeps repeating that He is Ghafur Rahim. And that is the optimism that we need to live with, that our Lord, yes, He will punish those who deserve it, but those that are trying hard and fall short, then our Lord is most forgiving and kind towards them. And that is the element that we can do to counter that fear-driven worship. So I would say that as long as we're trying our best, that's what's most important. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq. Ameen.
Ameen. The next question for Sheikh Muhammad is, if you had a dream the day after an odd night that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted your du'as and your ibadah, and that every single one of your du'as was accepted, and you had done all your adhkar and ayatul kursi before you went to sleep, how should you take that?
That's an interesting question. So, you know, honestly, I would like just a personal recommendation. I would take it as a treat, a gift. It's like seeing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a dream. You know, it's something that you cherish. It's like, you know, it's a special experience. And when there's kind of like hard times in your life, when there is you know, you feel like, oh, was my worship accepted? Or you're feeling bad, guilty for your sins. Remember that time, like almost like a box that you open up, a jewelry box, and you see this, you know, beautiful ballerina, or whatever, bad analogy, but it reminds you of those good times, that good time when you saw that dream. So keep it like a little gift for you, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah, Allah accepts.
Ameen. The next for Sheikh Omar, the 6 du'as that we've been making in the last 10 nights, should we continue making them, and how can we continue them? Can we also make conditional du'as like, oh Allah, grant me a promotion or a degree if you know it's going to be good for me? For really big goals, should you do istikhara instead rather than a du'a?
You said the 6 du'as or the fixed?
They said 6, so I don't know if there's a specified 6.
Sheikh Muhammad and Sheikh Nabil?
I actually think this is one of Sheikh Muhammad's tactics that he teaches in Visionaire, that he tells you choose like a select number of du'as that you keep repeating. So I think the sister or brother is actually referring to something like that.
Yeah.
So they've been making the same du'as all throughout Ramadan. And she's saying, now that Ramadan is over, should I continue making those same du'as even after Ramadan?
Sheikh Muhammad, you got to help out with this one.
My students slipping into this.
I thought I weeded them out.
What was the question again?
So they're asking the 6 du'as that we've been making in the last 10 nights. Should we continue making them, and how can we continue them? And also, can you make conditional du'as, or should you do istikhara before you make a big du'a for a larger goal?
So just for those who didn't take the Visionaire class with us, why I recommend 6. The reason that I recommend 6 is I found that if you have a whole bunch of really big du'as, and then after Ramadan you need to take action on them, it's hard to wrap your mind around, you know, hey, I've got 500 du'as and now it's time to take action. So that's where the 6 number comes in. Just create a consistent time. So in Ramadan time, we make du'a in Taraweeh or in the night. But after Ramadan, the problem is going to be that, are you guys still there? Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, cool. I think I just saw it, the light crash. In Ramadan time, we make dua in Taraweeh at night, but it's a time that normally we're not going to be awake outside of Ramadan. We might be sleeping and we're not going to be able to continue that habit. So what I'd recommend is you build a daily dua habit at some time during the daytime that you'll come across each day. And what I recommend is making a daily dua time at Fajr time. So that could be in your Sunnah prayers in Fajr, in Sajda. You can be between the Sunnah prayers and the Fard, or maybe after the Fard prayer towards the end of the prayer. Whatever, just make it consistent. So take even your last 10 nights of Ramadan, the du'as that you're making, and build that habit into the daytime, so that after Ramadan is over, you can continue to make du'a during that daytime and make it a habit that you're always calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah.
Perfect. The next question aimed at you, Sheikh Omar, is, can one make dua for anything, or should they stick to being realistic? Doesn't sticking to being realistic limit the dua itself? Wow, lots of dua questions, mashallah.
I think that, when it comes to being realistic, ask Allah for what you want. Let's just put it there. Ask Allah for what you want and have faith and sincerity in what you want, or in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ability to answer you. The idea is to detach yourself from the specifics of the answer, not from the ambition of the question. So ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by all means. Don't get foolish with it, right? So that's just, engage yourself in dua that's meaningful and that speaks to what you want, inshallah ta'ala. But don't get foolish with it in that you just start making dua for a bunch of things that don't really have major impact in your life, but you just want to see if your du'as are going to work or not, because then you're still attached to the outcome because you're challenging yourself with the outcome. So remove the element of challenge with it from it and just focus on asking Allah sincerely from the depths of your heart what you want. And make sure that what you want includes a disproportionate amount of blessing in the hereafter. So ask Allah for this dunya and for the akhirah, and let your highest hopes, be pledged towards the akhirah, and detach yourself from the outcome.
Perfect. The next question is, me and my husband are in a long distance relationship. We miss each other a lot, and we do have misunderstandings due to the distance, as it's been more than 5 months because of Corona that we've been away. Can I get some tips on how to be patient in this situation and how we can still stay so connected, inshallah, afterwards? Who's feeling the vibes for a romantic question? Sheikh, this is so much power. Sheikh Naveed, can I have, no? Are you gonna pass?
I'm going to pass this to Sheikh Omar.
I don't know if you're allowed to pass.
You got to get, come on, Sheikh.
Do you want a free? Okay, we'll get one free pass to Sheikh Naveed. Like, he has 3 minutes left, so he's allowed. You know what? We'll pick on Sheikh Omar again. Sheikh Omar's been kind of quiet. So they've been apart for 5 months. They don't know when they're going to see each other again. They're fighting a little bit as well. How can they stay connected in this situation?
I think that it's, look, it's important to acknowledge why there is tension. Look, everyone is struggling in a different way here. It's natural to struggle. SubhanAllah, I was actually telling people that just previous to this, even like kids have a hard time right now. They're not really able to fully process their emotions right now and why they're feeling the way that they are, adjusting to, laptop school and things of that sort, and not having their social interactions. So it's not feel a great sense of anxiety. And I think to name it and to talk it out, and to show vulnerability to one another and say, look, and apologize frequently and understand frequently. So apologize for your own shortcomings and seek to understand on the other side as well.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair. And I'm going to the last question is just aimed at all of you, if you guys can speak just for 1 minute or so on it. Now, so Corona changed us as a nation, everyone has come into this and completely switched up their lives upside down. Ramadan in Corona has changed us a little bit more to that extra bit of extent. And I think every time we leave Ramadan, we want to hold on to those amazing, habits that we've built. We want to hold on to that connection, but we automatically dip. Is there something that we can do this time, having it been a weirder Ramadan, and we're still not going to go back to our normal distractions and whatnot afterwards? Any tips that you guys may be utilizing, or anything you would suggest to the audience to maintain that connection, maintain your level of your relationship with Allah, and then stay away from the bad deeds that tend to harm your heart exiting Ramadan as soon as the shaitan is free and life goes back to normal? And first, Sheikh Muhammad, please. Thank you.
Bismillah. So my advice, something that I would like to do, and I encourage other people to do, is pick 5 small habits that you can carry on after Ramadan. So like I said, we're all, creatures of habits, but the problem is we don't think about our habits and how they build us and make us. And the other thing is, our habits don't serve us for the most part. So if you have put some intelligence into, hey, this is a habit that I'm going to do. This is another habit that I'm going to do, and build that into your routine outside of Ramadan, then you can take the spirit of Ramadan and the ibadah of Ramadan into the weeks and months after Ramadan with these habits until it becomes unconscious and it becomes who you are, inshallah.
Perfect. Sheikh Naveed?
My advice is, I think one of the things that we experience in Ramadan is that we become so, I don't even know what the word is, but more spiritually enlightened, closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, due to the environment of ibadah that we create for ourselves and due to the ibadah environment that's created around us. So I think it's very important to look at that element in terms of when we're looking at what can we do to increase our ibadah. Ibadah is founded in knowledge and is grounded in knowledge. So if you were to just choose one thing and you can't choose more than that, you know, Sheikh Muhammad's mentioned a few, I would say that if you would only to choose one, it's continue increasing yourself in knowledge, continue revising your knowledge, continue continue learning something new about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and implementing it in your life. That would be my tip. That for me, the most transformational thing is knowledge. And the more that you can ingrain it into your lifestyle, you know, continuously reading, continuously listening, that is the best way to get closer to Allah and the best way to protect yourself from falling into sins as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Yeah, I would say choose your highlights from Ramadan, and in terms of good. So whether that was sort of passive worship or listening to lectures or active worship, and literally put them down on paper and say, okay, how do I reduce and not relinquish? How do I reduce the load but not relinquish it altogether? And when it comes to some of the sinful habits that could creep back in, how do I relinquish and not revive? So reduce, not relinquish when it comes to good things. So, reduce how many lectures you're listening to, but keep listening to your daily lectures, your daily doses. Reduce your Quran reading, reduce your Salat night, but don't relinquish it altogether. And when it comes to sins coming back, relinquish them, don't revive them.
Okay. Jazakumullah khair to you all. Thank you. I was actually surprised that those were so unique in terms of your advice. I want to thank you all. I know, can you guys see me? Now I feel like no one can see me. Okay. I don't know what's going on today, but I wanted to thank you. I know the community has been so dependent since Corona and since this big, scary Ramadan was coming up on our leadership, on our shuyukh, and we've been demanding a lot more of your time, even more so than we normally would, online at every opportunity, asking you, seeking you through webinars and whatnot. So Jazakumullah khair for the time. I know it's like 1 a.m., mashallah, or almost 2 for Sheikh Muhammad. Jazakumullah khair for constantly making yourselves available. May Allah reward you and make it so heavy on your scale of deeds that you guided us through this period of time, and may you be remembered for that as well. Jazakumullah khair for joining us today.
Can we just end on congratulations to Dr. Sulaiman on completing his PhD?
Yes,
works. I feel bad. He did the PhD and everybody's like, good job, good job.
It was like Kobe Bryant except positive. My entire social media was like, Omar Sulaiman, mashallah, mashallah. We got Mogul Sheikh, Muhammad Sharif, we have Imam Sheikh, Naveed Aziz, and we have Dr. Sheikh Omar Sulaiman. Jazakumullah khair, everyone, for joining.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the congrats and I appreciated the outpouring. It was overwhelming. So Jazakumullah khairan.
Barakallahu feekum. May Allah preserve you. All right, take care, everyone. We're going to do a Kahoot game unless you guys want to join in. Otherwise, I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your evenings, inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Amazing, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed that session. I know it's been quite a month. This is the 28th day, wrapping up. Tomorrow and Saturday are our last days for Ramadan 360. I hope that you benefited as much as I did. I know we've been calling upon our shuyukh. Yes, someone was saying join in, our shuyukh, and they've been so responsive. Alhamdulillah, that is what has made Ramadan 360 so beautiful. We have our strong, our powerhouses who are so consistent and such leaders in the community. Sheikh Omar doing his amazing work, Sheikh Muhammad Sharif motivating us with Sheikh Naveed Aziz being the pillar of the community that he is, mashallah. And it's been just such a pleasure. Saturday too, yes, there is a little bit of a bonus because we realized, there was a bit of a gap. We don't want to just abandon you before Eid, and it's not like we all have crazy late Eid decorations, or not Eid decorations, yes, but crazy late night plans for Eid, for moon sighting, etc. So we wanted to do an announcement for the Umrah trip for the Ramadan challenge that you guys have been beautifully participating participating in, mashallah. And we also wanted to give you some quick reminders and a couple more topics, inshallah. Shaitan will be back. Don't approach it like that. Alhamdulillah, I know that's something that we always get caught up in, but I think the positivity of this past session has reminded us. I can't put together two brain cells to say anything when the Sheikh are live, but I did find that so powerful is that they focused on, get the consistency down, focus on a powerful, a powerful one single approach that you can focus on as well. So have habits, have one purpose, and then of course try to build up that routine despite the lack of scarcity that Ramadan has lost us. But inshallah khair, it's going to be an amazing year after Ramadan. We've had the opportunity, the privilege this time around to actually hold on to these habits, and it's such a blessing that we do, inshallah. I hope that you take full advantage of them. Barakallahu feekum for your kind words and your support. I don't know, I'm too awkward to thank you properly, but I always remember and I always smile whenever I read your kindness in the comments. So we're gonna jump into the Kahoot game. Alhamdulillah, we ended quite on time. I was worried, but alhamdulillah for that. So we will do the Kahoot game. We'll have a session tonight as well. We have an exciting session, Quran Vibe series. We actually have some of my favorites back with us. So we have Ustada Taimia Zubair. She's going to do a quick reminder. This is going to be our last reminder for the series. And then we have Sheikh Yahya Ibrahim. Oh, no, hold on. Am I going crazy? Yes, we have Sheikh Yahya Ibrahim, inshallah, for tonight. I was looking at the Friday schedule, almost thought I lost my mind and it was Friday, but it's the last odd night. Please remember, of course, we have our amazing sponsors at ICNA Relief in the USA, IDRF in Canada, and Orphans in Need in the UK. The month is running away from us. I love what Sheikh Omar Sanaman did. I actually love to do that as well at the end of Ramadan. I'm just opening up the Kahoot while I'm chattering away, by the way, so we're getting to that, inshallah. Is that last hour, whenever I feel like my Ramadan has not been where I need to be, and just generally I always will just spend it in dua. I'm like, you know what, ya Allah, like I still have this last few seconds. I'm a procrastinator, so ya Allah accept it, inshallah. So I hope that you guys take that advice to heart. I think it's very beautiful, and those powerful moments in Ramadan is racing away from you are the best moments, I think, to connect, inshallah, and that you feel that desperation. Not to make it depressing at all, but I'm just pulling up the quiz itself. So get kahoot.it ready on your phones. If you guys have never joined us before, you are in for a treat. This is one of our last couple of Kahoot quizzes where we give away one free Al-Maghrib online course, inshallah. Because Sheikh Omar was with us, I think I'll give you the option of two of his courses that we have on Al-Maghrib online. So either behind the scenes or as you are going to be the courses that are up for grabs for Kahoot today. Oh, I just realized I didn't share the screen. I'm like, where's everyone? So here is the screen, and I hope that you put in the pin right here, 8114288, and join us for the Kahoot quiz right now and opt in to win one of our prizes. Jazakumullah khair for everyone who stuck in from the beginning, from Sister Sarah Sultan, Sheikh Omar Husain. Honestly, these people have been holding us down. I feel like I have gotten so much sukoon and so much positive kind of reinforcement from their posts and the things that they shared early on in the month that allowed me to maintain this momentum. So may Allah reward them for that. Ameen. And keep up with them, inshallah. There's so many beneficial speakers that we've had so far. MashaAllah, you're already familiar with Sheikh Hamid Salman, Sheikh Muhammad al-Sharif, Sheikh Naved Aziz. Sheikh Naved Aziz is the gem that I've been kicking myself that I had barely been exposed to him. I think only at a few conferences is what I attended of his work before I started working for Al-Maghrib, and my mind has been blown with the way that he connects to the heart and his storytelling, mashallah. I'm so glad that he opened up so much with us today. I'm going to give you guys up to 60 players, inshallah, before I get started. You can still join after 60 players are in, but we'll have started the quiz already. So make sure you take advantage of that opportunity. I think that was such a beautiful, I feel like I have to rewatch this because I was too focused on your guys' comments and make sure everything was okay. But if someone did, again, take any notes, please do share them, inshallah, in the Facebook group, or you can email them to me at Hafsa, HAFSAH@almaghrib.org, and inshallah, I'll post them on the Faith Essentials portal as well, so everyone can benefit from them. I hope that you guys take advantage of that opportunity. Actually, a lot of times the notes that people share, we have some amazing transcribers. Those get posted on the Faith Essentials portal, and then whoever is benefiting from them, maybe years or weeks or months, whatever down the line, inshallah, you will get the ajr for them, every benefit they get from reading it. And 60 people are in. Jazakallah khair, just pull up the chat box again. Thank you so much for your kind words. Amina, Alvik, Hannah, mashallah, thank you so much for your kindness. Inshallah, if you join Faith Essentials or Maghrib Online, you will see a lot more of me. So I hope that you do check us out, whether it's just for the Lost in Translation course that's closing or for Faith Essentials itself. Let's kick off the game though. 8 questions are all that we have to answer for today's game. 1 out of 8 is, What is true regarding the writings of Qadr? Why do I? The month is gonna end. Ramadan's gonna be over. Next Ramadan's gonna be here, and I still haven't figured that out. Alhamdulillah. Why is okay? We'll do that because I have my laptop on the other thing, and I guess that's how it looked like the entire time. Boo. Alhamdulillah. I'm just reading your comments. MashaAllah. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions in for the Q&A portion. I hope that you benefited from the answers. Apologies with the three shuyukh. It was hard to figure out who to pick on. So if you intended it for one person, I just tried to be as general as I could. But I appreciate that participation. 23 seconds are left on the clock. 53 answers have been submitted, mashallah. Let's see if we get past 70 answers. That means 70 people have joined since we started, and that would be pretty awesome. I have some I didn't even tell you guys. So we're baby stepping into the planning for our post-Ramadan kind of series and whatnot. We had some series that were on Faith Essentials before Ramadan. We had a coronavirus series and we had pre-Ramadan series. All of the above is the correct answer for those who are still focused on the quiz. So 35 people, mashallah, got that correct. Let's see who's on the first scoreboard. Ruru, first name. First time I think I've seen you on it. Fatima and Khalid securing third place again. Rakshi flexing on us, mashallah. And Zainab, I think Zainab has won as well. Mashallah. Let's see who disrupts this board. I would love to see, new names on there. Shortening your lifespan is an effect of sins. True or false? Man, it'll be nice to do a live session when I can drink water. My apologies, guys. My voice and my kind of speaking has gotten more and more gross throughout Ramadan, so please forgive it. But what was I saying? Oh, yes. Exciting announcements. So inshallah, we have a few series that are in the works. I don't know if we'll do a full Shawwal 360. That's an idea that I'm still toying with, but we're trying to see how many instructors, because right now, mashallah, they're so burnt out. Like, I think they're just trying to get to Eid and sleep probably for a week. I hope, I make so much du'as for them. Please keep them in your du'as by name as well. They've provided so much benefit to the community and us. So please, I'm still working on a list of all the people who we've had for Ramadan 360 and their links, so you can keep up with their work, you can benefit from them, and you can support them as well. Wow, 69 answers, mashallah. 11 seconds on the clock. True or false, shortening their lifespan is an effect of sins. That was a recent session. I hope that everyone remembers the answer to that one. But yes, so alhamdulillah, we're going to give them a chance, inshallah, for a little bit. True was the correct answer. Wow, people are really, really torn on that one. I'm glad 50 of you got that in though, and mashallah, everyone participated. Scoreboard, Ruru, Fatima, and Rakshi, Zainab, and Khalid went all the way down to 5th. You still have an opportunity, mashallah. Rakshi is still killing it. Let's see who else makes a jump, inshallah. What sin is most commonly paired with every other sin is the next question. Is it arrogance? Is it backbiting? Is it lying? Or is it envy? What was I saying? Oh, yes. So I'm going to give them some chances to breathe, just to relax for a couple of, a week or so before we jump in. I think you guys need a break as well. I hope that you set your intentions now. MashaAllah, I think a lot of us kind of were surprised by how much benefit we were able to maintain and gain throughout this month. Our institutions and organizations have really stepped up, and as they do in Ramadan, and provided us with so much regular knowledge. And you've been so amazing with your support of the Ramadan the Launch Kid campaign. I hope that you guys, I know someone was mentioning Lifetime. So Lifetime is not something we regularly offer for Faith Essentials at all. We offered it for a short period of time last year, and that was for $850 US. So what we have on Launch Good right now is mind-blowingly amazing, alhamdulillah, and that's going to end after Ramadan. So make sure you take advantage of that for the last few days that we have left of those amazing deals up, and then you commit, you make the intention now, get the extra reward of doing it in Ramadan, and then commit to continue your knowledge journey, inshallah, with us. Lying was the correct answer. A lot of people were torn between lying and arrogance. That's fair. That's a lot of that is a tricky one, but I remember that this was quite powerful, mashallah, when we learned it in our live. Rakshi, Khalid, Fatima, and Shahriar again on the board, and Tasniya, some familiar names. Afreen A is the highest climber after climbing up 22 places, mashallah, 4 out of 8. Who said greed and the need for more is a sign of poverty? Was it Abu Bakr? Was it Ali? Was it Omar? Was it Uthman? Who was it who said that? Also, I don't know if radiyallahu anhuma is the correct way to say it when you're saying plurals. someone correct me. I should probably just ask one of the shuyukh, but here I am asking you all live. So don't judge me for it, inshallah. For those who kind of were trying to balance their time as best as you could during Ramadan and you were having a tough time of it, I hope that you take advantage. And with all the recordings, inshallah, by the week after Ramadan, all the recordings that we've had so far will be all uploaded. There's over 120 of them, well over 80, no 80, how many is it? There's a good chunk of them that are already up. I think 70 are already up. And inshallah, when we end off the month, all of them will be up. And now you will have a lot to review, inshallah. So that will be blessings on blessings. I love to keep recordings on in the background when I'm doing other work. And just when a gem catches my mind, just like bask in it. So if you don't have a lot of time, if you work from home or whatnot, that's still an option, inshallah. The correct answer was Umar Radhanhu. And let's see who was on the board now. Rakshi, Shahriar, Hanif, Mel. That's a new name. Mel, nice to see you on the board. Hamis R, mashallah, also making a jump. That's amazing to see. Is it Hamid having misspelled his name, or is it Hamis? Interesting. Interesting. 5 out of 8. Tumania means sadness. Tumanina. I definitely was not paying attention during that live session. Wow, clocked me on that really quickly. Tumanina. True or false, 28 answers on the clock. Let's see. Yes, unfortunately, there is sometimes there's hardly any, and sometimes there is a bit of a longer lag on Facebook. However, if you're logged into the Kahoot, you're getting the question and the answers at the same time, I believe. So inshallah, we have had pretty even winners from Facebook and from Faith Essentials, so I haven't been too concerned too far. It is the correct way, is it? But yeah, so already distracted. Sorry, I'm reading the chat, mashallah. Mel, amazing to see you. Mashallah, so you're coming on Facebook as well. So yes, I hope that you guys take the opportunity, inshallah, to commit to your education journey. I'm really excited. There's like some just big plans. I'm still looking for ideas and suggestions. False, 51 people got that false. Tamanina. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to call you Nazmia, and you're gonna have to tell me how to say that properly. Rakshi, Hamis R, Aisha, Shahriar, and Sarah Talba. Mashallah, on the board, jumping up as well. Some of you, 6 out of 8. Prophet Muhammad was known as Al-Faruq, Saifullah, Sadullah. Was it Al-Amin, As-Sadiq? Was it Al-Ghani? Let's see who gets that correct, inshallah. Stress the T. How do I stress that? All by 30 seconds, I'd say. Oh, that's quite long, subhanAllah. For myself, I'm seeing it not even. I'm seeing it by about 7 seconds compared to the seconds that I see on the clock right now. So hopefully, inshallah, it's not too long. It could be, I don't know if it's dependent on an individual connection, but I hope that inshallah you guys are still doing okay with the, is anyone else having a very large lag? Please let me know, inshallah. I don't know if there's much I can do about it, unfortunately, at this point. 16 seconds are on the clock. But yes, I want to know, so on Faith Essentials, we have these short, not too short, like a few hour long courses that are split up into strong modules. You have your lessons, they're very powerful, they're easy to understand, and you get a lot of knowledge that's very essential quickly, alhamdulillah. So that's the perk of the style of our courses. Al-Amin As-Sadiq was the correct answer. 60 people got that correct, mashallah. Let's see what the next question is. Scoreboard, Rakshi, Hamis R, Aisha, Shahriar, and Hanif. Mashallah, Hanif jumping up to catch the board as well. 7 out of 8, 2 more left. Nothing destroys the barakah of time like sins. True or false? That's a bit of a twist on a previous question. But yes, so we're looking at Tamunina. Okay, I'm still gonna call you. You did a good job though of trying to help me. So yes, we're looking for what kind of styles of videos do you want to see on Faith Essentials? Do you want to see something more, not just Faith Essentials, but from Al Maghrib generally? Because as you know, I host Al Maghrib online classes as well. That's been a pleasure. For those who are still in Protect This House, mashallah, we still have 2 live Q&A sessions coming up after Ramadan. So that's something amazing to look forward to. Inshallah, dates to be announced. So there's still so much to kind of commit to and to look forward to going forward. But what type of style, what type of content, what kind of Shuyukh, what are you feeling like seeing after Ramadan? And maybe we don't know how long coronavirus is gonna last. So what would you like to see throughout this entire period? We were thinking documentaries or a short video series. We haven't kind of narrowed it down yet. It depends on what the audience is looking for, inshallah. True was the correct answer. Nothing destroys the barakah of time like sins. I'm glad the majority of you got that correct. Rakshi, Aisha, Abdul Wahab, Eddie, Shahriar, and Hanif. MashaAllah, Aisha and Abdul Wahab jumping up. And since Rakshi has already won, whoever gets second place, if she wins, will get the prize. But Rakshi will always get to flex on us, MashaAllah, as she has been. Who was the father of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Was it Hamza? Was it Abu Talib? Was it Abdul Muttalib? Or was it Abdullah? 54 seconds left, 16 answers in. Yeah, it's not a full, even a 10 seconds. It's more like 7 seconds on my end. But yes, let us know. I'm looking at your comments right now. For those of you who are commenting what types of content you want to see. Something from Dr. Farhan. We definitely have to see something from Dr. Farhan. We'll see what we can manage, but I think he was a star. And I hope that you guys take this coming out of this. Dr. Farhan Abdulaziz, Sheikh Omar Shukri, Sheikh Suleiman Hani, mashallah, they've been such consistent stars of our Ramadan 360 series. For those of you who attend our courses in person, and they've, mashallah, they've come up with some of our newer courses, Into the Mirror. Dr. Farhan was going to be doing Faith and Honor. So if it's coming to a city near you, or it does, you realize how much, mashallah, talent that they have and how much passion that they have for teaching in such unique ways and styles that they have of teaching. And make sure you take advantage, because they are, mashallah, especially Dr. Farhan, Sheikh Suleiman, they are our newest instructors. So show them some love in person as well, because mashallah, how amazing they are from this experience. 63 people got that correct. Abdullah was the correct name. Let's see what the podium looks like right now. Third place, we have Abdul Wahab Eddie, mashallah. Second place, we have Aisha, mashallah. And first place, we have, let's see, now I'm like at the end, Rakshi, mashallah. You definitely flexed on us. Again, Fadhila and Hanif, mashallah, are fourth and fifth. So Aisha, because Rakshi has already previously won, mashallah, she's already killed it before on a session. Inshallah, you now have the opportunity to get a free course, to get either as you are with Sheikh Omar Suleiman or behind the scenes with Sheikh Omar Suleiman. And please reach out to me at Hafsa, hafsah@almaghrib.org. Take a picture of your screen now and send that to me, or send me on Facebook, whatever is easiest, inshallah. Dr. Nasser Krimian was a treat. I agree with you as well. He's also one of our newest instructors. So I think you guys get the feeling, mashallah, that we have selected some amazing new instructors with Al Maghrib who are highlighting and who are taking us into the next kind of 2020, the next decade, inshallah. So show them the love, show them the support when you see their courses come to you in person. And we look forward to, I cannot wait to, inshallah, have classes in person, to hug you all, to travel for classes, for those of you who are in the US and UK, etc. And inshallah, get the benefit and the pleasure of seeing you in person. We are absolutely never, ever getting a recitation from me again. You guys heard how scarring that was. Inshallah, I would love to come to Minnesota. But take care, everyone. The game has concluded. I won't take too much of your time. I'm just going to remind you, going into the last odd night of the month, Ramadan 360's 28th night, but the night of the 29th, inshallah, tonight. Please do remember IDRF in Canada, ICNA Relief in the USA, and Orphans in Need in your donations. I've loved this relationship that we built with these amazing organizations. One, ICNA Relief being one of the largest, most powerful community workers in the US, supporting everything that's going on the ground there. IDRF being one of the most, cleanest records, very authentic, very careful about the work that they do, and being, of course, 100% zakah eligible. And then Orphans in Need doing such crucial work for orphanages across the globe in 45 countries with 28,000 orphans, mashallah. And of course, we have our Launch Good campaign as well. So if you want to have that sadaqah jariyah, you want to be involved, you want all the lives that have been changed, all of these instructors, Sheikh Suleiman, Sheikh Omar, and Dr. Nasser, etc. All of these instructors and so many more started off as students at our level, at my level and your level. And they were passionate enough, Sheikh Hasib as well, some of our favorites, and they were passionate enough, and they built themselves up, and they're at this place. That gives us so much motivation. I hope you make that one of your Ramadan du'as as well, is to have to continue and make you a conduit of good and a conduit of knowledge, inshallah, in the community. Kamal Makki, yes, we'll keep him in mind. Actually, I have to message him, good reminder. But yes, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for all the benefit that you provided us, the support that you've given us as well throughout this month. And inshallah, I'll see you tonight with Sheikh Yahya Ibrahim and Ustad Taimia Zubair for one of our last Quran vibes. Make sure you don't miss it. It will be in the Ramadan 360 Facebook group. It'll be on Faith Essentials and on YouTube, inshallah. Take care, everyone. And I will post the schedule for tonight and tomorrow as well in the Faith Essentials, the portal, so you guys can see it there. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.